Each year at this time, we have the wonderful opportunity to highlight and celebrate those dynamic teachers who have been selected as the Teacher of the Year for their schools. They represent the dynamic teaching field of those teachers that make a difference in the lives of boys and girls here each and every day in St. Lucie Public Schools. By the way, it's one of the best places to work. And with this opportunity to celebrate them, we can introduce you to some of the brightest and the best around. At this time, joining us from Windmill Point Elementary School is the wonderful Miss Megan Lockhart, who is their dynamic Teacher of the Year. Welcome to the show, Miss Lockhart.
Thank you so much.
She has brought along with her the awesome principal there, Miss Nicole Ortega. Welcome, Miss Ortega.
Thank you, Dr. Perez.
As I mentioned earlier, each year at this time, we celebrate the wonderful work that's being done by educators in our schools by highlighting those persons that have been selected as the Teacher of the Year. We know that they represent the masses of teachers that work with our students each and every day. So again, congratulations on your selection.
Thank you.
But there may be some people viewing that would not know who the wonderful Miss Megan Lockhart is. So I'm going to ask at this time if you would briefly introduce yourself to our viewers.
I'm Megan Lockhart, and I work at Windmill Point Elementary in 3rd grade.
Welcome. Where did you go to school, Miss Lockhart?
At Florida Atlantic University.
Florida Atlantic University. So what is life like in the 3rd grade classroom each and every day?
Oh, it is amazing. It's different every day, and it keeps me on my toes.
I know we're starting what we call the 2nd semester, and we're heading into that time that we talk about testing and accountability. What specifically would we find happening in your classroom right now?
There's a lot of reciprocal teaching going on in my room, which puts the emphasis on the students. They talk to each other, they work together, and they find that they're able to teach each other a lot, just like I can teach them too.
So, what do you find is your favorite part about teaching?
I love the relationships I have with every single student that I come across. They're all different and they're a joy.
Miss Ortega, someone may be viewing, may not know who you are, so if you'd also introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Nicole Ortega. I'm the principal at Windmill Point Elementary. I was a teacher for 5 years. I was an instructional coach for 4 years, an assistant principal for 4 years, and now I'm going on my 3rd year as principal at Windmill Point.
Thank you.
Sure.
Now, you're the lucky one. You have the
I am.
opportunity to visit Miss Lockhart's class each and every day. Tell me, how does that room make you feel? What do you see? What do you hear when you visit?
Well, like you said, what do you feel? As soon as you open the door, you feel that sense of classroom community. You feel the relationships that Ms. Lockhart spoke about. It's just students working together to increase their knowledge, which is facilitated by Ms. Lockhart. Kids are calm, they're collaborative in nature, and you see students striving to achieve their goals.
Ms. Lockhart, we know that the students that you're teaching know everything there is to know about technology and its use. But for educational purposes, how do you plan for and infuse technology into your instruction? Well,
I think the world we live in is so technologically focused. It's almost hard not to use technology every day. I use a website called Classroom Dojo, and it helps students with positive reinforcement, and I'm able to connect with parents daily. They're able to see everything going on in my room. I also use iReady, and that's more of a like a one-on-one for students to be able to focus and do different reading and math lessons.
Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
Always.
Always?
Always.
Was there someone that inspired you?
My mom was a teacher for over 25 years, and just growing up with her and seeing her dedication, and she would put her character and her humor and her personality into her classroom and her lessons, that I almost felt like I was teaching with her at home every night. So I just grew up knowing I was going to be a teacher, and it just came natural.
Ms. Ortega, we know that for school to work, it can't just be the work of the administration. There are many teachers that step in to do those other tasks that just help school operate. What other activities would we find Mrs. Lockhart involved in?
Well, she's definitely one to just say, oh, I'll help. She's definitely part of our social studies committee. She'll be at the parade this coming week. She is at all of our major events, and then always if there's any type of challenges or we come across an issue with a group of students that we need to be a little bit creative or innovative to get them to their goals, she'll sit in and problem solve and help us come up with the solution. So she's always part of the solution at Wimble Point, whether it's with her students or with the whole team or the school as a whole. She'll always step in to lend a hand, and we've solved and helped some students grow with her knowledge.
Ms. Lockhart, when you're the teacher of the year, you become a chief ambassador for education for that school. There's always a story about what makes you the teacher of the year. But tell me, besides your story, what advice would you offer to new teachers?
I think the most important piece of advice I could give a new teacher is build those relationships from day one with every student, that you are able to reach a student on a different level, on an emotional level and on a personal level, make them safe so that they can give their all to their learning and to you, because they want to make you happy.
All day, we want to make sure that our children are a success. We want to make sure that we have those kinds of conversations that are collegial, that are collaborative, to ensure that that happens. What advice do you give to parents to help that move forward?
I like to tell parents that we're a team. We have the same goal in mind. I want their child to be as successful as they do. They're able to see things at home that I'm not able to see in the classroom, and vice versa. And if we put everything we know about their children together, that we can really reach a goal, and we are a force to be reckoned with.
Busy time in third grade, we know it is. But is there something new or exciting that you're working on with your students at this time?
Well, this year is my first year being a departmentalized classroom. So I'm the reading and writing teacher. So I'm really focused on reading. And we've been working on point of view. And it's the point of view of different characters. And they are able to play the role and really step into a story and think about and act the way a character would. And I've seen a lot of just fun in learning. And it's been really exciting.
Ms. Ortega, describe Ms. Lockhart for me using 3 adjectives, and then tell me why those 3.
Sure. Definitely nurturing, knowledgeable, and humble. During data conversations, you may see Ms. Lockhart's proficiency rate skyrocket, and when you ask her, well, how did you do that? We collaboratively planned. She's like, well, I don't know, I just did the same thing as everyone else. But it really goes back to that caring environment, those relationships she builds with kids that they want to perform for her, and she goes out of her way to make every child feel safe and cared about in her classroom and successful.
Nurturing, knowledgeable, and humble. Characteristics we know of a great teacher, So, when you think about the time that you have been teaching, reflect back on everything that you have done, all that you've learned along the way. When did you first fall in love with teaching?
I first fell in love with teaching at the very end of my first year. During my first year, it was a roller coaster of emotions. Every day was a new challenge. And I think within the last week of teaching, I was able to sit back and reflect and think where I started the first few days. I didn't know a lot of strategies. I was unsure of myself. And seeing the growth I made through 1 year was really, it just made me feel really good. And I felt in love. Looking at the kids and seeing where they started and how far they've come because of the impact I made a big difference to me. And it made me feel really, really good.
You mentioned the word impact. So tell me, what impact do you see yourself having on students' ability to be college and or career ready?
I believe that when students leave my classroom every year, they become they are one step closer to becoming an effective citizen of society. They are able to problem solve and work collaboratively, cooperatively, get along with people, and think critically.
So, Ms. Ortega, tell me, what makes Ms. Lockhart the perfect candidate for this honor?
She just is well-rounded as a teacher, as a part of the Wimble Point community, as a family member, and at Wimble Point we are a family, and Ms. Lockhart is part of everything we do. In the classroom, you can see her striving to help her students meet their goals. As a school, she's working with us to help us meet our school goal, and there's no better candidate out there.
All right, there's no better candidate out there. Great, Ms. Lockhart. I'm excited. I'm excited. So, when you think about education in its entirety, what fuels you?
The constant need to grow and the constant need to learn new things. I think education is one of the few careers that you never fully know everything that can make you to, you can't be perfect. There's always something new to learn. There's always something new to try. And that fuels me every day. There's something new I can do.
Always something new to learn, always something new to try. So when will you know that you are a success?
Probably when I retire.
Humble.
So, Ms. Ortega, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to share with our viewers about your wonderful Teacher of the Year?
I would just say, as a teacher myself, and the best compliment for a teacher to get is to want to have staff children in their class or be placed in her class. Ms. Lockhart has a couple of staff children in her class this year, but I know as a mother and as a principal, I would be honored to have my child in her class.
So, Ms. Lockhart, finish this phrase for me. The world needs
More encouragers.
more encouragers. Finish this phrase for me. I believe
That we should all keep the mindset of a student.
Ms. Ortega, you have the opportunity again to work with this teacher, Ms. Lockhart, your Teacher of the Year, and wonderful teachers each and every day.
Absolutely.
If you had an opportunity to give a wish for education, what would your wish be?
I would wish that all students believe that they are rising stars and that all teachers believe in them as well and build those relationships to create those successful individuals for the future.
There was an anonymous person that said, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's evident by your selection and through our conversation today that you are a caring individual for those students and you're able to take them multiple places to make sure that they are a success in your classroom. Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Windmill Point Elementary School. Ms. Ortega, thank you for joining us as well. And we wish both of you much success in the coming year.
Thank you so much.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions,
Love it.
cross-referencing travel sites, and booking all your flights with those.
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh, but now they're like, aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
At this time, we want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year celebration show, the awesome Miss Caroline Miller. Welcome.
Well, hello, Dr. Perry. How are you?
It's such great to see you again. She's the dynamic Teacher of the Year for Port St. Lucie High School.
Thank you.
She's brought along with her the wonderful Mr. Adrian Ocampo, who's the proud principal at PSL High. Welcome, Mr. Ocampo.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It is so good to have this opportunity to share with you and to talk to you about your selection as the Teacher of the Year, but more importantly, what's going on in education at Port St. Lucie High School and in your room. We love doing this show because it gives us a chance to highlight the dynamic work that's going on each and every day with all of those in our field. Ms. Miller, just in case there's someone that does not know who you are, would you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Well, certainly. My name is Caroline Whidden Miller, officially, and I teach at Port St. Lucie High School. I teach IB English 3 to juniors, IB English 4 to seniors, and Theory of Knowledge.
Tell me, what's this IB stuff?
IB is it stands for International Baccalaureate. It's an international program where the students get not only high school credit but also college credit through their work in high school. So it's a fabulous program. It saves a lot of money, and the kids are really challenged, and they're prepared when they go away to college, which is so important.
So, what's your favorite part about teaching?
That is, this is going to sound very cliche, but my favorite part about teaching is my students. I love when they come in my class and, their cages are a little bit rattled and they say to me, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm prepared for this. And then we talk again, throughout the year, throughout the semester, and they'll say, oh, this is awesome. Look at how great I'm doing. So to see their confidence build and to see them get excited that they're learning is just really rewarding. I love that.
I mentioned in the question, what's your favorite part about teaching? But I want to stretch you a little more and ask you, what's your favorite part about teaching IB?
My favorite part about teaching IB is that the students not only become more confident, but they become such well-rounded writers and critical thinkers, and they really stretch themselves. And I could not be more proud of them and the work that they do, which is every day, all period, and they know to expect it. They not just meet my expectations, but they supersede my expectations, actually.
And you get to see them from 10th grade all the way through 12th grade?
I see them 11th grade and 12th grade.
11th and 12th grade?
Yes, yes. I have looped them from 10th through 12th, but the last 2 years I'm doing 11th and 12th.
Great. We better introduce this fabulous
Yes.
principal that you brought along with you. Would you introduce yourself, Ms. Ocampo, to our viewers?
Yes, I'm Adrian Ocampo, the proud principal at Port St. Lucie High School.
And how long have you been at PSL, Ms. Ocampo?
I have been at PSL this is my second year. So
Does it
2
seem
years.
like 2 years or does it seem like a lifetime?
Oh my God, it's been the best 2 years of my life.
Great, great. Now, you get to see the wonderful work that Ms.
Yeah.
Miller does each and every day.
Yeah.
When you walk into her classroom, what is it that you see? What is it that you hear? And how does it make you feel?
So when I walk into a classroom, it's almost like you leave high school and you go onto a college campus, because the kids almost interact with Ms. Miller like it's a college. She's a college professor. The kids are doing college level work. And when I go in there, I leave with the sense that not only these kids picking up high school material, but she's getting them ready for college, so that way they'll be successful when they're there.
Now, to be the teacher of the year, we know that that person is very dynamic on your campus. But that person is not just locked into the confines of their four walls for their classroom. They're all about the campus, helping school operate and work. What other activities would we find Ms. Miller involved in?
Well, she's one of those formal leaders on campus. She's a department head for the biggest department that we have on our campus, and she's also an informal leader as well. So, she's one of those people that when she says something, people are listening. So I like to constantly touch base with Ms. Miller and see what kind of activities are going on campus and get her opinions on things. And then, of course, as the formal side, as a department head, we have our meetings. She makes sure she goes back with the departments, and usually when we have made a decision, things get done very quickly. So I appreciate that.
Ms. Miller, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
Yes and no. At some point in my life, I decided that maybe I wouldn't. Originally, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And then once I got to high school or college, I thought to myself, oh, of course, I changed my major 7 times, but we won't get into that. But I thought to myself, you know what? I want to be a writer and an actor for Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
And my father went absolutely nutso. But it was funny because he said no. He said, you're a teacher. And so I got to thinking about that. And I have a genetic bone disease. I've broken almost 80 bones. And so I couldn't play, basketball or football or softball with my friends when I was little. So my father built me an easel, and he put it in the garage. And I taught class, and I would make up mathematical equations, probably because I'm not a math teacher, but I would make up mathematical equations, and all my friends would come, and I would teach them during our playtime, and when they would leave, they would say, oh, can we come back and play again tomorrow? Will you teach us again? So even then, at 6 or 7, I was kind of doing my thing, so to speak.
So when you think back about this decision to become a teacher, is there someone or some teachers that actually inspired you to become a teacher?
Ironically, there is. And I, like so many of our students in St. Lucie County, we moved a lot. My father was in the military, so I ended up going to 17 schools in 18 years. And when we moved to Europe, I had this teacher, and at the time, I was in the 8th grade. He, I thought at the time, had to have been about 168 years old. He wore a little 3-piece suit every day, and his hair was very nice and gray. And he's really pushed us. He was very demanding. His name was Mr. Mooney. And Mr. Mooney would put on his slippers. And so he built this rapport with all of us to the point where I had always been taught, being a military brat, be respectful of authority. And so with Mr. Mooney, I started calling him Mr. Slippers. And so he just kind of fed off of that. And I realized, wow, this man can teach us all this, but he can still be human with us too. And that really inspired me.
Mr. Slippers, that was your Saturday Night Live coming out. Yeah.
It probably should have been.
And I heard the conversation about a 3-piece suit and gray hair. Oh, okay. So, we know that DQ5 on our Framework for Quality Instruction is all about engagement. You have some very high-level students that are operating at that level as well. But how do you purposefully plan for engagement in your instruction?
I believe that students, everybody learns a little bit differently, and everything has to be individualized and tailored, even at the college level, which is basically what I'm teaching. So what I try to do is try to make my lessons so that some of them, oftentimes you'll find activities in my classroom that are hemisphericity based. So we have the logical thinkers and the creative kids as well, getting something out of the lesson. I try to use multiple intelligences so that everyone becomes more of a global thinker. I also use a lot of activities through Kagan, Sage and Scribe, shoulder partners. Sometimes we work individually, sometimes they work in small groups. So there's a lot of switching and changing so they don't get bored. I myself can't sit still for an hour and a half and listen to a lecture. So I try not to do that to them, and I try to get them involved, and it works out really well.
As a Teacher of the Year, you become the ambassador for your school. So what advice would you give to new teachers?
I think to new teachers, and I've mentored a number of teachers over the years, I think to new teachers, the biggest thing that I have found from my own experience is to build rapport, to create the we. And in my classroom, there's a we. We're all together. I front load so that we do team building and class building, and I would strongly advise new teachers to do the same thing. Get to know your students, get to adore them. They will do the same to you, and everything will go smoothly.
You also have to speak a lot with parents. So what advice do you share with them to help them make sure that their child will be successful?
I meet the parents face-to-face, oftentimes on parent night. Of course, you know, the IB parents are always there. I do a lot of emailing back and forth to keep them on track with what their kids are doing. I also try to reward their students for doing fabulous things, whether a child's struggling, for example, with literary terms, and then suddenly they really get it. I love to call the parents and say, this is amazing what your child has done, so that they know that their children are safe with me and they're learning with me.
Ms. Ocampo, describe Ms. Miller using 3 adjectives and tell me why those 3.
Well, number one, she has a very good sense of humor. Okay, so she uses her sense of humor to get her point across in class and outside of class when she's meeting with as a department. She's very reflective, so if we have conversations about teaching or about systems that are happening in the school, she really gives great advice and is reflective to my input as well. And last but not least, she's very intelligent. So when, like I said before, when she says something, you know that it is because of she's seen it done right, she's seen it done poorly, and so she's going to give you good advice.
Reflective, intelligent, and humorous.
Wow.
A lot of fun in that classroom. Great characteristics that describe a wonderful Teacher of the Year, though. So, you traveled, being in military, parents being in military, you've had a wealth of opportunities and experiences and training. But when can you say that you honestly first fell in love with teaching?
I think that I first fell in love with teaching, and this is kind of ironic. My degree isn't in education, so I went in and was hired for a position. I thought I was going to be a substitute in Jacksonville. And so instead, they said, oh, we have an opening. And so I went to this school, and it was an alternative education center. And so I got to watch a teacher for 2 days. She was a little bitty, teeny-weeny little thing, and she had the most amazing ability to connect with kids and get kids who had maybe previously been in trouble or had struggles, and they were really excelling. And so I fell in love watching her make these connections with these students, and I tried to mimic her my first year, and I think that's what, and me experiencing the same kind of success with those students made me fall in love with it.
What impact do you see you and your work having on your students' ability to be college and or career ready?
I truly believe that my students, and they, from their own personal feedback after they graduate, for example, and they get accepted to college, they'll come back and they'll say, you know, my professor said I am one of the best writers they've ever come across. I'm so excited. Here's a copy of the email, or their professors will even email me. And so I think with that, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, because I get the immediate feedback from so many of my students.
You're teaching a very demanding curriculum, being IB, with those upper level students in 11th and 12th grade. When do you know that you are a success?
You know, it's funny because I feel like the only way to really know you're a success is when you look back and you're done doing whatever it is you're doing. But I don't ever want to be done teaching. I just absolutely love this career. But I think that I see little glimmers of success. When for example, right now I have a student, and she was a level 1 FSA student, and she came back, and we worked, and this is the first year I've had her, and she was really kind of felt that IB might be daunting for her. And so now she's passed the FSA, she has concordant scores, she's excelling, she has an A, and so I feel like her success means it's a success for me.
Ms. Ocampo, what makes Mrs. Miller the perfect candidate for this honor?
I think it's because she builds relationships with students, with parents, with her peers, the teachers that she teaches with, and also administration. So she is one of those people that you want on your campus. They're going to be moving your climate in a positive direction, and it's just great to have her on our campus at Port St. Lucie High School. I'll take 100 more just like her.
Wow. Well, Ms. Miller, I heard Mr. Ocampo say reflective, intelligent, and humorous. I see the energy, but what is it that fuels you every day?
What fuels me is when a student lets me know that they considered, oh, it's a half day, it's an early release day, and oh, I was considering not coming to school, but I knew that I would miss so much in your class. So I don't have necessarily free days, and the students know that, and they know that they're going to learn something every single day. And to hear them make those comments is just really rewarding. That keeps me going, because I know that I'm making an impact on those students.
When you think about all of your experiences, your travel as a child, the different schools that you were in, when you think about the job that you applied for in North Florida, but became, and the person that you modeled after, and your time teaching, all encompassing, what do you know for sure?
I know for sure that we have to continue personalizing education for every single student. We have to make it personal. We have to let them know that we care, because if they know that we care and they feel it and it's sincere, all the students will do is achieve and do better than they have formerly.
Ms. Ocampo, is there anything that you want to share with us that we have not spoken about the wonderful Ms. Miller?
I can only tell you what the kids say, and they're our clients. And the kids love being in her class. They want to be in her class, and they only say positive things about Ms. Miller and her teaching, and they just love being down there.
Ms. Miller, finish this phrase for me. The world needs more teachers to connect with the students and push those students and let those students know that even from failure, we learn. If they don't do as well as they thought they can, they've learned something. Let's move on. Everything can only get better. Last one. Finish the phrase, I believe.
Every time I hear that, I think to myself that Whitney Houston song, I
The
believe
children of the future, yeah.
But I didn't want to sing that for you.
No, sing.
I believe that education is about students, and that has to be our main focus in order to get where we want to be as a global society.
I want to leave you with the words of Clay Bedford, who said, you can teach a student a lesson for a day, but if you can teach him to learn by creating curiosity, he will continue the learning process for as long as he lives. It's evident through your humor, through your energy, your excitement, that you are creating those learning opportunities about processes for those students so that they'll be lifelong learners. Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Port St. Lucie High School. Go Jags.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing along your wonderful principal, Ms. Ocampo, to celebrate with us as we share the wonderful things that's happening in education.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you
Yes, ma'am.
so
Good
much,
to see
Dr.
you.
Perry. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Ocampo.
You're very welcome.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
Wow, it's exciting to have this opportunity to talk to the fantastic Mr. Luke A. Hall, who is the dynamic Teacher of the Year for Treasure Coast High School and a great music teacher as well. Mr. Hall, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
He's brought along with him the fantastic Miss Susan Seal, who's the dynamic principal at Treasure Coast High School. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I love Treasure Coast High School. Magical black and gold Treasure Coast High School. Titan born, Titan bred, love it. But I am excited to have an opportunity to speak to you as the Teacher of the Year because we have one thing in common, it's that love for music. So I know you, but just in case there are some viewers that don't know who the wonderful Mr. Luke Hall is, would you please briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, as you said, my name is Luke Hall. I'm the band director at Treasure Coast High School. I'm a Fort Pierce native and a product of the St. Lucie County School District.
And what high school did you graduate from, Mr. Hall? I
graduated from Lincoln Park Academy.
Let me tell you, we are so excited when we have an opportunity to speak to teachers that actually graduated from St. Lucie Public Schools. It's a real jewel for us to have our students come back home to continue to help prepare the next generation of students. So thank you for coming back home. Tell me, where did you go to college?
I went to IRSC, at the time IRCC, in the University of North Florida.
University of North Florida. And what is it like being the band director of the famed Treasure Coast High School Marching Titan Band and concert bands and jazz bands and all of those bands that you have?
In my opinion, it's the best job in the school district.
Cool, cool. And why is that?
It's because of great students, wonderful parents, great middle school directors, and a very supportive school.
Great. Mrs. Seal, we could talk all day long, but I better let our viewers meet the fantastic principal at Treasure Coast High School. So would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Susan Seal, and I am at Treasure Coast High School. Prior to that, I was also an administrator at St. Lucie West K-8, and I have been involved with our school system for 24 years.
Now, we know that you're the music instructor, band director at Treasure Coast High School. But tell me, what does your day entail? What classes do you really teach in, and what's happening in the music world?
Well, it depends. It's an alternating block schedule. Mm-hmm. So on A days, I teach a percussion ensemble, an intermediate concert band, and a freshman band in the color guard. On B days, I teach a jazz band, our advanced concert band, a freshman band, and that's the extent of that. Curriculum-wise, we have the marching band, we have 3 fully instrumented concert bands, a full jazz program, a chamber music program. So it's a fairly comprehensive music program at this point.
Wow. What are you preparing for right now in the music world?
Right now we're preparing for jazz MPA, concert MPA, and solo and ensemble.
So is it safe to say, Mr. Hall, that once you start back in, let's say, July with marching band camp, that you don't stop until after graduation and then it's a real quick stop?
Pretty much. We go right into marching season. The day after graduation, marching band has started.
So what's your favorite part about teaching?
I would have to say there's a 2-part answer after giving that some thought. The first part is seeing the growth in the students. What I do is unique in that I have a student for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So I see them coming in as a freshman, and I see their development freshman year all the way through the end of their senior year. With my relationship with our feeder schools, many of the students at my program I've known since they were in 6th grade. So for a lot of my students, I see their development from a 12-year-old to an 18-year-old. So being involved with their middle school programs and directors and being involved with them through high school, I really get to see what they do, not just as musicians, but their development as human beings.
In the music classroom, Mr. Hall, do you have the ability, the opportunity to infuse technology into your instruction? And if so, how?
We do. We use technology in a couple of different ways. While the pedagogy for teaching instruments hasn't changed in 200 years, ways to engage the students and help them learn and comprehend skills has changed. One of the main devices we use in our instruction is called a Harmony Director. It's a device that the Japanese developed in their education system, and that helps students develop pitch awareness and understanding of time. That's been integrated pretty extensively into the curriculum of all the bands and how we use that. One of the other things we do is we try to teach them how to use their personal technology responsibly for their development. So we very heavily use cell phones in the program as a way to help students not only learn their instrument, but also learn how that technology can be used to enhance their daily life.
Ms. Seal, you have the pleasure to visit Mr. Hall each and every day. When you walk into that band room, how does it make you feel, and what is it that you see and hear?
It makes me so proud to be the principal of Treasure Coast High School because of what I see and hear and feel. It doesn't matter which period I go in. the kids that are there are focused and energetic and passionate about what they're doing. They can't wait for me to hear them, whether they know if they're getting close to a concert and they know that it sounds really good, or they're just beginning practice. They're so proud of what they're learning, and they love that feedback that they hear from us.
To be the Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Seal, that person can't just be locked into the confines of the band room walls. What other activities do we find Mr. Hall involved in that helps the campus work?
Absolutely, as we were talking about, we have marching band, and so the football season is a big part of what they do. Every pep rally that we have our band involved. We also have some informal performances during lunch, and a lot of those are given by band students, and it kind of gives them an additional outlet to perform. As well, the Prism concert that he puts on each year is highly looked forward to by not only the students and parents, but many people in the community. So it's a positive outreach of the band.
Mr. Hall, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
No, sir, I have not.
When did you discover?
It was in a band room in Gyotoku, Japan.
Tell me about it.
Well, after college, I moved to Tokyo, and I taught English and played in the British-style brass band. Teaching English was an excuse to get a visa to go to Japan. While there, the director of the group I played in, it turned out, was one of the gentlemen who established the band movement in Japanese education post-World War II. Through him, I met a gentleman named Shinichiro Tagawa, who was the director at Nihama Elementary School, which at the time was Japan's premier elementary school band. I was invited out to see a rehearsal to see what they were doing, and I walked in to see these 4th, 5th, and 6th graders playing collegiate level wind band literature in the U.S. So in listening to them, that really opened my eyes to asking the question, what could be done in the school system here, and how could I be involved?
So, as the Teacher of the Year, there's a story. You alluded to part of your story, but you're often called to be the ambassador for education on your campus and to share with others. What advice would you give to a new teacher?
Seek out veteran teachers and ask them how to do the job better. That's been the most valuable thing to me.
In addition to that, you have to have a lot of conversations with parents, especially being the band director, because kids are going all the time, many different places. But what advice do you share with parents to help them make sure that their child is a success, not only in band, but across curriculum?
At the beginning, at the beginning of the school year, we have a meeting for all incoming parents, and we have a meeting for the entire parent organization of the program. The biggest thing that we stress is that parents need to volunteer for one thing in the band program, for the students to see their parents as stakeholders in their education. We encourage parents to be involved with their teachers, but we found that trying to get parents to understand that actually physically coming out to one thing their child is doing and volunteering helps change their child's view of their parents' role in their education.
Mrs. Seal, please describe Mr. Hall for me, 3 adjectives, and tell me why.
First of all, he's very focused. Anyone who has been around Mr. Hall for any period of time is very aware of that. He's very goal-oriented, goal-driven, and focused constantly. Along with that is he's very purposeful in everything he does. I know that when there's something that has been put in place that's an experience for the students, it's done with purpose. It's not done because it just seems like a good idea. He has a distinct idea of why we're doing it, what the end product should look like, and what the students will walk away with. And I would say the last thing is passionate, because he is very passionate about giving our students in St. Lucie County absolutely the best educational experience they can have.
Purposeful, passionate, and focused, dynamic characteristics of a wonderful teacher. But Mr. Hall, we've already told everyone that you're the band director, music instructor at Treasure Coast High School. And those students seem to be naturally engaged in learning. But DQ5, on our Framework for Quality Instruction, talks about how our teacher purposefully plans and uses engagement for instruction. How do you do that?
I found that how we approach the curriculum for the students determines their engagement. For example, when we are deciding on the marching band curriculum, the students will vote on the halftime show that we do, and they will choose the material they are learning. I found that giving them opportunities to help choose what the material is using to teach them the skills that they need to be a good musician, it makes them feel ownership in the program and their education.
So, you told me that you didn't initially want to be a teacher or decide to be a teacher. You told me about the wonderful experience that you had in Tokyo. When can you honestly say that you actually fell in love with teaching?
Probably my second year teaching. That was at Clewiston Middle School. That program had never earned a superior at their assessment performance in the history of the school until that year. Seeing those students do that and seeing them celebrate their success kind of made me reassess my position on education.
As the teacher of the year and as the band director, you see those students, as you spoke about, for at least 4 years, and with your relation with your feeder for longer than that, probably about 7 years. But how do you see you helping your students or preparing your students to be college and or career ready?
A couple of different things I think give evidence to that. The first one is last year 100% of my students who auditioned for college scholarships earned them regardless of their intended major. The second thing is numerous students will discuss with me once they've gone into college how much of a difference being in a program like the band has impacted their college readiness, just their life skills. They find that they have better organization skills and they tend to be ahead in their classes compared to their peers.
So what do you think about, since 100% of your students received a scholarship that auditioned for one, regardless of their major, what about a signing day for band students?
I think it would be a wonderful idea.
I think we ought to implement that. We'll start it at Treasure Coast High School. I'm sure your principal will support that. Right, Ms. Hill?
Absolutely, that's a terrific idea.
Yes. So, because that's a terrific idea, and we know of the support that you offer all of your teachers and your band program, tell me, what makes Mr. Hall the perfect candidate for this honor?
More than I have seen in my experience, Mr. Hall truly cares about the best educational experience for all of the students in St. Lucie County. A principal's always proud when their teacher is working specifically for their students, and that is the case here as well. But Mr. Hall is always looking out for all of the students. As examples, the feeder programs that he's working with, and some of the other things that he has helped implement with some of the other high school band directors. That stands out to me.
Mr. Hall, what fuels you?
Diet Dr. Pepper. No, I think the constant drive to see my students get to where I think they can be. And every time we come closer to that, I realize that that is further away than what I thought it was.
Let me make you think about one other answer. And I'm basing this on the experiences that you've shared with us about not necessarily wanting to be a teacher, going to Tokyo and why you went, and then the experiences that you had there about the elementary students. Why are you a teacher?
Now, I would answer that question. I am a teacher because I cannot see myself doing anything else with my life. I love the fact that I get to turn a generation of students each year onto something they didn't know, and I love seeing young people become the adults of my future. And the role that I play in helping them become those adults, I think is just a wonderful privilege.
Ms. Seal, is there anything that you have not shared with us about the wonderful Mr. Luque Hall that you want our viewers to know?
I think, again, as we've said, he'd be an excellent choice for our Teacher of the Year, representing St. Lucie Public Schools.
Mr. Hall, finish this phrase for me. The world needs
the arts.
Oh.
I think that the quality of a society's arts says everything that you need to know about the quality of a society.
Well, I'm going to let it stand right there when you say the world needs the arts, because I'm sure you know that I totally agree with you. I'll leave you with these words. Music expresses that which cannot be put into words, and that which cannot remain silent. Thank you for the fantastic job that you're doing as a music educator, and thank you for representing Treasure Coast High School. We wish you nothing but the best of success, Mrs. Seal, as well, and we congratulate you on your selection as a Teacher of the Year. Titan born, Titan bred.
Everything starts out small. The things that hurt us, they all start from somewhere. The words we say, the things we do, they can grow into something else. What was small and innocent can become big and sometimes scary. All it takes is one comment, one picture, one video for something to catch fire. But a big problem doesn't need a big response. Not at first. Even if we don't know what to say, the eye emoji can be that first step we take. Let's all pledge to take that first small step together and change the world in a big way. I'm a witness, and so are you.
At this time, we want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year celebration show the awesome Miss Pamela Chautala, who is the Dynamic Teacher of the Year for Village Green Environmental Elementary School. Welcome, Miss Chautala.
Thank you very much, Dr. Perry.
It's a pleasure to have you with us today. She's brought along with her the wonderful Mr. Terry Davis, who's the dynamic principal at Village Green Elementary. Welcome, Mr. D.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a delight for us to have this opportunity to celebrate your selection as the Teacher of the Year, but to share that with all of our viewers here about the wonderful work in St. Lucie Public Schools. Ms. Chautala, just because there may be someone who does not know who the awesome Ms. Pamela Chautala is, would you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure. My name is Pamela Chautala, and I teach at Village Green Environmental Studies School. I teach 4th grade. And I've been teaching 35 years. I've taught all grades between K and 5th, except kindergarten and 1st grade.
So what's your favorite grade to teach?
4th grade.
4th grade. So tell me, what's happening in your dynamic classroom at this time?
Oh, all kinds of stuff. We're getting ready for our student-led conferences, which are next week. And, of course, we're preparing for FSA writing. That's a big thing in 4th grade.
We hear this idea about student-led conferences, but just in case we may have some viewers that have never participated or are still wondering, share that idea with us.
Okay, student-led conferences is where instead of the teacher doing a conference with the parents, the students are the ones who actually lead the conference. In my class, the students have a portfolio binder. It has all their data in it and all their classwork in it and their goals of where they are now and where they want to be at a certain time, and they sit down with the parents and they actually do the whole conference. So the teacher's more of a facilitator and the student becomes the one conducting the conference.
Now, we know that 4th grade is the grade for, one of those grades for assessment for accountability.
Right.
But during the day, you have an opportunity to do many things with those students. What's your favorite part of teaching?
Oh, my favorite part of teaching? My very favorite part of teaching, I think, is when you have those teachable moments with kids. You can tell the light bulbs going on and the students when they're learning something new, and especially like if you're reading novels and they're all are getting real excited about what's going to happen next and they're making predictions. I think that's my favorite part of teaching.
Mr. Davis, there may be some viewers who don't know who the wonderful Mr. Terry Davis is, so would you also introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure. I'm the principal of Village Green Environmental Studies School. Prior to that, I was principal of Forest Grove Middle School. Before that, I was principal of Port St. Lucie High School. I was also an assistant principal at Royal Palm Beach High School in Palm Beach County, St. Lucie West Centennial High School here in St. Lucie County, and Fort Pierce Central High School here in St. Lucie County. And before that, I was a teacher in Palm Beach County for 9 years.
So you have the opportunity to visit Ms. Chautala's class every day. When you visit that classroom, a couple of things. How does it make you feel? What do you see and what do you hear?
I always feel really good. What comes through is just such a strong sense of kindness from the teacher and caring, and the students are courteous to each other. Obviously, Ms. Chautala spends a lot of time on manners and how students should speak to one another, and it just gives me great hope for those kids in the future that they have those extremely important social skills moving forward, not only as they go to 5th grade, middle school, high school, and beyond, to have those interpersonal skills for the rest of their lives with whatever they choose to do and become.
Ms. Chautala, the students that you're teaching came into the world knowing how to use technology for just about any and everything. How do you purposefully plan for and use technology for instruction?
Oh, so much. Every day. I use the CAVS machine, the CAVS system, which is with a document camera for writing. For science, I usually use the Science Fusion videotapes, which are interactive with the student and the teacher. We also do a lot with research on the computers, and the students do iReady to prepare for the FSAs. Let's see what else. Just whatever you're typing on your regular computer, you project up on the screen. So I use a smartboard for math. There's just so much technology, and then of course you're using your computer to look at Skyward, your grades, everything like that too.
I think you said 35 years?
That is correct.
35 years teaching. Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
No, I did not. I started off first and got my degree in secretarial science, so I thought I wanted to be a secretary. Then I started working for a lawyer, and he convinced me to go to law school, so I went to law school. And then I ended up in teaching, and I'm very happy I'm a teacher after 35 years.
So when you reflect back of the journey that you have made, do you think that there might have been a teacher that really influenced these things to happen?
Yes, there is a teacher. His name was Mr. Lindbergh, and he was a very dynamic history teacher in high school. He was passionate about history, and he used to act out history and make it and interact with the kids, and it was just very, very exciting. So I think he was the one person that influenced me.
Is there something new or exciting that's going on in the 4th grade classroom at Village Green?
I would say we are, besides the student-led conferences, we are really doing a lot of initiatives with environment this year. We are Village Green Environmental Studies School. So our whole school is very active in preparing. We're going to do like we're going to start a garden. We're going to open up our nature trail again and do a whole lot with environment. And the other thing is I'm starting to prepare the kids for my Young Author Tea, which I have every year. And the parents all come. The students read their own books that they read, that they create themselves. And then the students become part of the tea. I actually have greeters who bring the parents in. I have a person that's in charge of the mic. We have people that are waiters and waitresses that take orders from the parents and give refreshments as the students are reading. So it's a really big event that I have every year.
Mr. Davis, in order to be selected as the Teacher of the Year, we know and understand that that person is heavily involved in the total operation of the school each day. What other activities will we find Mrs. Chautala involved in that?
You'll find her an active participant in our PBIS program, for which we just received a gold designation at last night's school board recognition. That's the highest possible recognition. She's a member of our literacy team, an active participant in that. She just is totally involved in the school. I can't think of much she's not involved in.
Mrs. Chautala, as the Teacher of the Year, we use you to talk about what's good, what's right, what's best, what's happening, to share that information with others. What advice would you give to new teachers?
For new teachers, my first advice I would give is to gravitate to positive people. Stay around the positive people in your school. Secondly, I would say that be very like a sponge and listen to other teachers, especially veteran teachers, and never be afraid to ask a question. That would probably be my best advice.
As a teacher and as the Teacher of the Year, you have to share a lot of information with parents, to talk to parents about school and helping things work at school. What advice would you share with parents to help them ensure that their child would be a success?
Yeah. I think the best advice I can give to parents is to become a partner with their child's teacher and communicate a lot with the teacher. become actively involved if they can with school events. Be open-minded and realize that they play such an important part in the education of their child. And also for the parents who do not speak English, they may think that, oh, well, how can I help my child out? But they can just help their child by just encouraging them, looking at their schoolwork and saying, oh, you're doing a good job, or oh, look, you're improving in your schoolwork. Just anything at all that would be involved in letting the child know that education is very important and that the parent is an important role also along with the teacher.
Mr. Davis, describe Mrs. Chautala for me using 3 adjectives and tell me why you chose those 3.
Well, I talked about caring already, and that is just an immediate impression that you get whenever you walk into Mrs. Chautala's classroom, whether it's the star student or the struggling student. Her interaction with the students transmits to the observer a clear sense of genuine caring. Kindness also, definitely kindness. Students sometimes bring quite a bit of baggage to school. In other words, they bring outside issues into school, whether it's from their home life or their social life with other students, that can really set a kind of a negative emotional tone for the day. And Mrs. Chautala's kindness to every child really helps to ameliorate that challenge. And the third thing I would say is commitment. You know, if you see Mrs. Chautala when we're doing groups for response to intervention for RTI so that we can target skills that children really need, she is so on top of that data and committed to making sure that each student is placed in the appropriate group so that they can get maximum benefit out of those precious minutes every day that we use to help them move forward and meet their academic goals.
Caring, kind, and committed. Characteristics of a dynamic teacher. Would you agree? I'm sure you would, yes.
I guess so, yes. I guess so, yes.
So, Ms. Chautala, when we think about keeping students engaged, especially at that level, we go back to our framework for quality instruction. DQ5 is all about engagement, how we purposefully plan to use engagement to help us better instruct students. How do you purposefully plan engagement for instructional purposes?
I think what I try to do in my lessons is really make it where the students are actively involved in learning. So in other words, usually they're working with peers together, communicating about, or they're working in their teams together in cooperative groups. I am the teacher and I am initially given the instruction, but I like to turn it over to the students. So I become the facilitator and they become the teachers. They are interactively. I can remember in school the most boring teachers are the ones where they just stood up and lectured. And when students are actively involved, they are automatically engaged. If they're having to communicate with one another, if they're having to work in their groups, especially if they have a purpose, they will automatically become engaged in the lesson. So my lessons are usually designed around that.
Great. So how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
We talk a lot about our goals. And even though they're only 4th graders, you say, okay, what do you want to be in life? And they'll say, you know, I want to be a doctor, for example. And I'll say, well, how are you going to do that? And we'll talk about, well, you got to get good skills, good study habits. You need to be very organized, prepare for middle school, and then on to high school, and then on to college. If you want to achieve your goals, education is important. So we do talk a lot about goal setting and how we're going to get there.
Mr. Davis, what makes Mrs. Chautala the perfect candidate for this honor?
I think just her instructional excellence, the way that she represents what all of us would want for our child's teacher. Someone, again, that goes back to those 3 things, that's really caring and committed and kind, that creates a classroom environment where kids thrive and is able to communicate how she does that.
When will you know you are a success, Ms. Chautala?
Well, I feel I already know that. A couple of things happened to me recently. 2 of my students, this was about a few weeks ago, had contacted me, and they're both about 26 years old. They said, Ms. Chautala, we heard you're Teacher of the Year. We want to take you out to lunch, to dinner at Applebee's. I said, oh, that's wonderful. I show up at Applebee's, and they say, well, we need a little bit bigger table. And it turns out that before the night was over 15 of my students from that class, which was a looping class for 2 years, which are all adults, all on their own, doing all their own professions, and they all came together for that night, and that was very inspiring for me. And the other thing was just today, Port St. Lucie High's drama department works with our 5th grade students. And one of my students came in today and said, Miss Chautala, remember me 3rd grade? And she said, you've inspired me, and you had such an impact in my life, and you're my favorite teacher. So those are the things that I really remember as a teacher and what's important.
Mr. Davis, is there anything that you haven't spoken about that you want to share with us about Ms. Chautala?
Just that I'm really excited that she's been a big enthusiastic supporter of bringing the environmental science focus back to Village Green Environmental Studies School, and worked to facilitate the Hope Sound Wildlife Refuge bringing live raptors, owls, hawks, and things of that nature to the students. Those kinds of activities, those are very powerful things for kids, things that kids will never forget, and to have her really on board with this renewed focus for the school is really exciting.
After 35 years, there's got to be something that fuels you every day. What is it, Mrs. Chautala?
Yeah, it fuels me every day. Going back to always hearing from students from the past to tell me that what I've done has been a good impact on them. But also on a daily basis, when you know you've had an impact on a child on a daily basis, when you know that they've got oh my gosh, I just learned that. Those kind of things really fill me. When I know when I'm teaching and they're actually understanding and they're getting excited, those are the things I think that fuel me.
Plato said to educate the mind without educating the heart is not education at all. And it's evident by those students that came back to celebrate your selection and the work that you're doing more than just educating the mind, but educating the heart. So congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Village Green. Thank you for coming, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
And we wish both of you the best of success.
Thank you so much.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
Love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
From Weatherby Elementary School, we have joining us at this time the wonderful Miss Rebecca Perez, who's the Teacher of the Year for Weatherby Elementary School. Welcome.
Thank you.
She's brought along with her the marvelous Mr. Michael Hissman, the dynamic principal there as well. Mr. Hissman, welcome.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure being here.
Yes, sir. It is a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to celebrate your selection, but to also introduce some of the dynamic teachers that we have here in St. Lucie County to the viewers here. Just in case, Ms. Perez, there's someone that may not know you that's viewing, would you please briefly introduce yourself to them?
Yes, my name is Rebecca Perez, and I've been here at Weatherby for the past 11 years, and I've been teaching for 25 years.
Teaching for 25 years. Tell me, what are you currently teaching at this time?
I'm teaching 2nd grade.
2nd grade, babies.
Yes.
So what's happening in 2nd grade in your classroom?
There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of kids going through their growth spurts. And I love it because all the light bulbs turn on, and just seeing them spark and just come out and real quick responses is the best thing.
25 years of teaching. So what has become your favorite part of teaching?
When I see that they come back, I got it. I finally got it, Mrs. Perez. I know what to do. And just see them very independent by the end of the year and ready to go on to the next grade.
Mr. Hissman, I know you've been around for a while, but there could be somebody that does not know who the marvelous Michael Hissman is. So introduce yourself, please, sir.
Principal at Weatherby, I think now for 11 years. I've been in the system for 35, principal for 27, administrator, that is. So been here a few years, been here at Lawnwood for a few years, Garden City, started off at Fort Pierce Central at a high school. So been around St. Lucie County for a long time, enjoyed every minute of it.
So you have the pleasure of visiting Mrs. Perez's class every day. When you visit that classroom, Tell me, what is it that you see? What is it that you hear? And how does it make you feel?
Well, you know, I think that one of the big things, and we've always talked about this, is that I see students engaged. You know, I think that's the biggest part. You know, she's a very structured teacher, so she really keeps her instruction going. You know, there's never a lost moment in her classroom.
We're busy.
She is keeping them just on task and doing everything that they need to do to be prepared. I always have to tell my, you know, when we're having conversations, you want a teacher that's going to have your child prepared to go into the next grade level and be ready to move on. And we always talk about Weatherby going from elementary to middle to high school and then off to college, kids at Hope Style. She's one of those teachers that I can count on that's going to have those children ready when they leave their classroom. So I think that's one of the things that I notice immediately when I walk in there.
Now, Mrs. Perez, you have those second graders. They come into this world playing with technology. They can teach us to do a few things.
Exactly.
How do you purposefully plan for and use technology in your instruction?
Oh, definitely. I have one of those ready, set kids that are teaching me. This is what I found. You want me to show you, and I love it when they're showing me something new. And we all get all excited about it. And I ask them to buddy up with someone else and show the other kids, you know, the new technology, the new things that are up to date, and educational stuff especially, you know, even if it's educational games as well. That, you know, of course, is approved by the school board that we can use. And, it, you know, it gears them in that direction, and they love it.
So have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
No.
Tell me about it.
I didn't. I've always had in my mind to be a nurse. And from nursing, because I was also my mom's caregiver, she was very sickly as I was young, and I geared towards educating my brothers and sisters. My father was a teacher, and from there on I geared into education. And what geared me is when I started tutoring for my college credits. And from nursing, I geared right into education.
Cool, cool. So, as a Teacher of the Year, we often use you as the ambassador for the school. What advice would you offer to new teachers?
Oh, definitely ask for help. Always. There's never a wrong question. There's plenty of mentors or any veteran teacher that are there to help them. Definitely. And as a mentor this year, I've been really, you can say on top of that with my new teachers. Don't be scared. Just, you know, ask any questions. There's no wrong question. There's no wrong answer. You know, and just showing them where I was 25 years ago. It was kind of exciting. You know, so, you know, it was something that I found, I was there once.
So, as a Teacher of the Year, again, you often have to share information with parents.
Definitely.
What do you tell those parents to help teachers make sure that their child will be successful?
Communication. Open communication. You must have an open communication with your teacher. If you have an open communication and you have that bond with your child and your teacher, you're going to see some success.
Mr. Hitzman, we know that to be selected as the Teacher of the Year, that teacher comes out of the classroom, is in the hallways, is all about the campus, helping to ensure that the campus works, making sure it operates. What other activities would we find Mrs. Perez involved in to help the daily operation of our school?
Well, I think, too, that really popped right into my mind, of course, is the obvious one is always working with her children, but one is she is the mentor. You know, we talk about that a lot, and as she was alluding to earlier, and that a great example is that we were working one day and she says, can I come in on the weekend and work with one of our teachers? We have several new teachers on campus, and, you know, as always, new teachers struggle a little bit, you know, because it's a lot that's going on and they have a lot to learn. And she was right there and she says, I want to help them. We want to sit and really work and define the lesson plans. We want to really help them find some certain things that they really seem to need some help on. So I think that's be one of the things, obviously, that I find very impressive by her willingness and desire to help those new teachers and veteran teachers for that matter, because she helps them as well. And then again, she is also a union rep. So she, as that union rep for our school, she also does a lot with us as well, helping us keep aligned and keeping teachers, I always say, satisfied, because you know, obviously there's things that occur in the school that you like to know as administrator, and it's nice to have a person that is of her caliber that is there to listen to the staff and then bring those concerns to the staff and work with us to make sure we're resolving it, because happy staff, happy kids, happy school.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Happy, happy, happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mrs. Perez, second graders, sometimes they can be antsy.
Definitely.
They're full of life and full of energy. So how do you purposefully use DQ5, which is in our framework for quality instruction, which is all about engagement, for instruction?
Oh, definitely. Find activities that they are really interested in. If we have a subject area where they're interested in, where it is a comic book or something, I will find that activity, make it fun. And actually, they're actually reading, writing, look at multiple choice questions. You know, they don't know it, but they're like so engaged that they're really, you know, active and they're engaged, and they get other kids engaged. So that's the fun part of it, that they don't think they're learning.
Is there something new or something really exciting, even for you, that you're working on right now in second grade?
Right now that I'm working on, we are really working on trying to gear them into being independent. And I think that's very challenging for them as well, because they're so used to having someone there modeling and showing them. And once you can say, when you're teaching them how to ride a bike and you take off the little wheels, they feel like they're gonna fall off. So seeing the children come back after the holidays, some of them got it and some of them I'm almost there. So just guiding them a little longer until they get those little training wheels off and letting them take off independently is actually exciting for me, you know, to see them go on their own in independence.
Mr. Hitzman, please define your candidate, Ms. Perez, with 3 adjectives. And tell me why.
Okay. Again, you know, I think I've alluded to those again. Dedicated. I think she, you know, 25 years of education that speaks for itself. And in those 25 years, again, as I look at data, you know, she's always one of those teachers that has students' growth, always involved with it. Committed, again, to ensuring that our students get the best education possible and that our school as a whole is successful. And again, when I say that, meaning both children and our faculty and staff that she works with. And then I think compassionate, you know, and that she truly, I think, has a heart for our children. And again, in our unique situation at our school, many times we have families that have a lot of unique situations. And it takes a person who can be compassionate and understanding and being able to work with those families to make sure that their children are successful. And then on top of that same side of it, what we talked about earlier as well, is compassionate with her peers. I'm there for you. I'm here to support you in whatever area you need, whether, hey, I'm not sure about those ESOL courses I need to take or those other things that, you know, that they're concerned about, that they may not have all the information all the time, that she's there to help them with that as well. So I would say those 3 areas, you know, just off the top of my head would be things that I would say. She's just a real dedicated person. I think it runs in the family. I know her brother was volunteer of the year for the district last year.
Okay.
So that's a pretty
all
impressive.
In the family.
Yes, all in the family.
Yes.
Dedicated, committed, and compassionate characteristics of a wonderful teacher. So, Mrs. Perez, back to you. 25 years. Long time.
Very long.
When did you first fall in love with teaching?
When I was tutoring.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was tutoring an ESOL student. Came from, I think, Santo Domingo. And that was in New York City, in Harlem. And he was my very first student I ever tried to help. And learning the second language, English as a second language, was a real big issue with him. He didn't want to come to school. Actually, he was a 5th grader. And he just didn't want to. And just engaging with him, using his own language, finally got him to try. And transferring that into the English language, he finally felt comfortable. So gaining his respect and being able to be on his same level and to initiate some education, he finally got it.
How do you see yourself having an impact on students' ability to be college and or career ready?
Oh, that is definitely one of my biggest, that I'm very proud of, because I have students that come back to me and they're in college now and they're becoming educators. And I didn't think I made such an impact, but them coming back and visiting me and coming back and even contributing would you say, how do you say, supplies to my classroom. This past year, I had 2 students come back and their parents just got a whole bunch of supplies, and that was awesome. I didn't think I made such an impact, and when I saw that, I was like, I'm doing something. Even if I reach at least one or two students that can get them there college ready, I've done my job.
Mr. Hitzman, what makes Mrs. Perez the perfect candidate for this honor?
You know, I think what I was valuing in my own mind, I think of her as this teacher that she's, and I don't mean this in a critical, she's not the best in all the way around as the perfect teacher, but she is the best in, you know, in the sense that she has so many qualities. You know, not all teachers are best in everything, and you can't be best in everything, but you can be very good in a whole lot of things. And as I really pay attention to Mrs. Perez, she's very, very good in a whole lot of things. You know, I may be the best in curriculum, I may be the best in technology, I may be the best in this, but I can't be best in all of them. But she is such an exceptional teacher. She really knows her skills in so many areas, and then she puts all those pieces together. It really does put her in that caliber of Teacher of the Year because, again, you can't be best in everything, but you can be best in a very, very good in a whole lot of things or great in a lot of things. And when you combine all those different categories that you're really wonderful in, I think that's what puts her in that category as Teacher of the Year because she does know so many things, and she can add that piece to her instruction, whether it's a child that's struggling in reading that needs that little additional push, whether, again, you know, being able to speak Spanish is a beautiful thing, and being able to experience what she experienced growing up and then bring that into her own little classroom community and the school community. You know, again, knowing the technology. You know, again, not being able, she may not be able to run the whole iReady program, but
Definitely.
she knows how to run the iReady program as well as most teachers are better than most, and then because of that, she is knowledgeable enough so she can combine all that to really provide her students with a well-rounded overall quality instruction and knows where to find pieces to make sure that each one of them gets the education they
Took
need.
the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say she's extremely well-rounded.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Mrs. Perez, 25 years. What fuels you still today?
Oh, when they come back to me. When they come back and they tell me thanks, or a parent comes back and gives me a gift, I'm like, okay, what did I do? She's like, you did so much for my child. Thank you, I appreciate it. Giving your time and, you know, and your patience. That's what keeps him going.
So when will you know that you are a success?
Again, when they come back and they're in college.
Okay.
You know, when they come back and they say, I got in. Would you give me a character letter, or would you write something, a reference letter for school? I'm like, definitely.
Finish this phrase for me. The world needs
inspiration.
Great. Well, I can tell that you're inspiring students each and every day at Weatherby Elementary School. I think it was Talbot that said, teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them what counts is best. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and
Same
congratulations
here.
on
Thank
your
you.
selection as a Teacher of the Year for Weatherby. Ms. Hisman, great talking to you as well, and we wish both of you the best of success.
Thank you.
I wish I was in school. If only I had a math test today. I'll stay after class. I'll clean the chalkboard. I wish I was in school.
School ends, but free lunches for your kids don't have to. Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/summer meals for help.
Joining us from Fairlawn Elementary is their Teacher of the Year, the magnificent Miss Michelle Powers. Welcome.
Thank you.
And along with her is Pat Gascoigne, who's the Assistant Principal at Fairlawn. It's a pleasure to have both of you on the show this afternoon. Now, Miss Powers, we take this chance each year to introduce to our viewers the dynamic teaching field of St. Lucie. We know that you represent many dynamic teachers at your school and in the system, and this gives us an opportunity to brag on all the wonderful work that you're doing every day. I'm sure that there may be some viewers watching that don't know who the wonderful Miss Michelle Powers is. So would you please briefly introduce yourself to them?
Sure. I've been teaching in St. Lucie County for 10 years now. I teach 5th grade at Fairlawn, 3 science classes and 1 reading to my homeroom. I also do the STEAM Club at our school, and so if you hear anything about us in the county about STEAM Club, that's us.
Great.
And that's about it.
And I think you brought along this dynamic assistant principal, Ms. Pat Gascoigne. Introduce yourself, please, Ms. Gascoigne.
That's correct. I'm Pat Gascoigne. I am sitting in for our wonderful principal, Mrs. Pamela Holmes. And I have the pleasure of being with Mrs. Powers, which is our wonderful Teacher of the Year.
Yes, yes. So tell us what's happening in your classroom today.
Today we took toilet paper rolls and we used them to map out the solar system to kind of understand the distances involved between the planets. And it was a very hands-on, exciting activity for the kids. We learned a lot. We learned a lot about the different activities, and I always like to do that with my science classes. It's something hands-on inquiry, bringing in those guiding questions that help them understand the content and concepts we're learning.
So a lot of projects?
A lot of inquiries.
Experiments?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of inquiries.
Okay. So what's your favorite part about teaching?
Well, that would be my favorite part. When they'll stop me in the hallway in the morning. Are we going in the lab today? Are we gonna? And I love the excitement that they have when we do those activities. It really, and it shows their engagement with that. The excitement that they have shows in their achievement down the road, and it's the best part for me.
These students that we're teaching come into the world knowing how to use technology for any and everything.
Yes.
So it impels us to make sure that we're using technology as an instructional tool.
Mm-hmm.
How do you plan and use technology for instruction?
Several ways. One of the ways that I'll use it in my reading block, for example, not only do they go on iReady, but they'll go on Newsella, they'll go on other things where they're interacting with the computer and the text in a way that they need to know for our state assessments. As well, we do a lot of academic games through the computer in small groups. It's on my website for them to use at home, and it just helps them with that review and the content, and as well as my delivery of instruction is often through PowerPoints.
So, Mrs. Gascoigne, you have the pleasure, the privilege of visiting Mrs. Powers' class every day. When you walk into that classroom, tell me, how does it make you feel, and what do you see and hear?
It is always a pleasure to walk in Ms. Powers' room because she's always entertaining, and the students are always having an opportunity to have a hands-on activities that presents itself. She's often presenting opportunities for them to be those lifelong learners in which they're able to become career ready. And in College Bound, she offered those experiences because she has those tangible means in which, in order to deliver the content, she gives them opportunities and choices to do different activities and different challenges. If it's not games, she's relating. Technology-wise, she's often having different experiments where the kids can tie in the different contents.
So, Mrs. Powers, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
No, I did not. I came into the profession late in life. After my daughter was born, just seeing her grow up and watching her start that school process sort of inspired me to go back to school and get my degree here at, I started at Indian River State College, and then went to Florida Atlantic University, and then just finally got my master's last year.
So you have been selected as the Teacher of the Year for Fairlawn. We're going to call on you to talk to new teachers often as the ambassador. What advice would you offer to them?
Don't think that you have to do it all in the first day. That you need to approach situations with humor and with patience, as well as just enjoying what you do. Because if you're enjoying teaching the students, they're going to enjoy what you're teaching. And it is just a relationship you build back and forth with the students.
After 10 years of being an educator, you've had your share of conversations with parents. But as the Teacher of the Year, what would you say to a parent to help them ensure that their child becomes successful?
To ask questions. Ask questions of the teachers, ask questions of their students. What did you learn today? If you have concerns, don't hesitate to communicate with the teacher about them. Communication with the family is one of the biggest aids in student achievement.
Mrs. Gascoigne, to be the Teacher of the Year, that means you are heavily involved in what happens on campus. What other activities would we find Mrs. Powers doing to help the school operate?
Oh, you can call on Mrs. Perez for just about anything, and you will find her in the midst of everything. I can tell you she lead the STEAM club. She's always heavily supportive in offering tutoring for students, both for reading as well as for science. She's also engaged as a co-author for a book. She should really talk on that too. She offers opportunities to delve deeper into the content, but I can tell you she gives science night. She leads in which we'll have a Title I science night, and she'll be one who lead it. And she'll also offer FSA opportunities and information to our parents. So she's in the midst of everything. If it's not presenting at SAC meetings or designing different items in which she would assist her colleagues in order for them to deliver their particular lessons. But she is always hands-on, and one in which she's in the midst of designing and leading professional development throughout the school.
So, Mrs. Powers, what's new or exciting that's happening in your classroom?
This year, we just received, in fact today, our grant from Education Foundation. Last year I received a grant from Walmart to start a STEAM lab at our school. We just received an additional grant from the Education Foundation, which really is going to make it available to all of the teachers at the school. And we're very excited and thankful for that.
Tell me about this STEAM lab. What's a STEAM lab?
A STEAM lab is, well, it's a room, it's an empty classroom that we're transforming into a learning area for science, technology, engineering, art, and math, trying to incorporate as much across the curriculum information that we can to the students. And it's just, there's materials that teachers can check out, and teachers can bring their students there.
The science class, especially that hands-on inquiry-based science class, has got to be naturally engaging. But we know that teachers have to purposefully plan engagement as demonstrated through our framework for quality instruction. How do you purposefully plan engagement for instruction?
I often will use thinking maps to activate their prior learning. I'll have them use peer discussion, where they will use some Kagan collaborative structures to talk about what they're learning or what they have learned or what they know about a topic. And then we'll bring in that exploration and the hands-on to tie into what we need them to, what our goal is.
Mrs. Gascoigne, please describe Mrs. Powers for me using 3 adjectives and then tell me why.
I can tell you Mrs. Powers is, number one, being so resourceful. You can call upon her to assist her colleagues in finding materials that's necessary to deliver the content in the classroom. Another key word I would say about Mrs. Powers is she's innovative. She's on that cutting edge in which she's able to transform her classroom into a little land in which you see little scientists running around with lab coats and delving deeper into the lesson. And I can tell you, and my last adjective for Mrs. Perez would be she is dedicated. She's a dedicated educator to this profession. She digs deep. She designs the lessons that's necessary to enhance and to run a very engaging classroom and assist, most likely, not necessarily build relationships with her students, but also with her peers.
Wow, resourceful, innovative, and dedicated, characteristics of a dynamic teacher. So, Mrs. Powers, when did you first fall in love with teaching?
I'm always falling in love with teaching, again and again. From the very first day that I started at Palm Point in 4th grade to yesterday. I mean, whenever my kids, there's always something that makes you fall back in love with teaching, and it continues to happen. Just excitement from the students, the smiles when they're excited to see you, when they learn something new, it's constant.
As a science and reading teacher, how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
We do a lot of character building and life skills that empower them to work through challenges, to work through problems. There's a quote I like, and I can't remember who said it, but it's "Don't waste a good mistake." And I want them to learn from that. A mistake is only bad if you can't learn anything from it. And we move on and we learn through our challenges and our struggles to ultimately get to where we want to be.
So, after these years of teaching and the decisions that you made to become a teacher and the things that's happening with your students, when will you know that you are a success?
I am a success every time my student understands something. It's all the time. I always feel that.
Ms. Gascoigne, what makes Mrs. Powers the perfect candidate for this honor?
Because she's more or less the epitome of what a successful teacher is, because she is not selfless. She wants to develop relationships not only with her students but with her colleagues. She wants to know that her kids can learn and that they will be successful in whatever it is that they try to achieve. So,
10 years later, Mrs. Powers, going back into that classroom, energized, enthusiastic every day, what is it that fuels you?
It's those relationships with the students, with building your classroom community, the drive to help. They become your students, your children, almost, as you become that classroom community of people wanting to work together. They want to help each other, and it's just that fuels me.
When you think about your time as an educator, as a parent, and the time that you've spent developing your craft, growing, all encompassing about life and life opportunities, what do you know for sure?
That I don't know everything.
Oh, wow.
It's always about learning. And I love when I learn something new because that brings back that excitement. Again, every time you learn something new and you bring it into your classroom, into your life, that's empowering for me.
Mrs. Gascoigne, is there anything about Mrs. Powers that you have not shared with us that you want our viewers to know?
and she's just such a caring teacher, one in which moves and is always willing. And it's so important that I know she not only has the skill, but she also has the will. And that's the importance of having a wonderful staff member on our team, one in which she will more or less share her insights and share that which she knows with everyone.
A couple of phrases for you to finish for me, please, Mrs. Powers. The world needs
innovators and thinkers, people who think outside the box, who know how to work together.
I believe
that we learn from our mistakes, that we learn from working together to that we can solve life's challenges if we just learn those skills.
Oliver Wendell Holmes said, "Man's mind, once stretched by new ideas, never regains its original dimension." And it's apparent that through the work that you're doing in that science class, in your STEAM, and I love the STEAM acronym activities, that we're stretching those students' minds so that they grow and be better students, grow and be better citizens as well. Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Fairlawn. Mrs. Gascoigne, thank you for coming and sharing more insight and information about Fairlawn and Mrs. Powers. Best wishes to the both of you.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
From St. Lucie West Centennial High School, the marvelous, magnificent Miss Amanda Bevacqua is the Teacher of the Year. And welcome to our Teacher of the Year celebration show.
Thank you.
She's brought along with her the awesome, proud principal at St. Lucie West Centennial High School, Miss Andrea Popwell. Pop, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dr. Perry. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. Mr. Bevacqua, this is our opportunity to celebrate your selection, but to also show our viewers and brag about the wonderful educators that we have here in St. Lucie County Public Schools. So just in case there may be someone who does not know you, I'm going to ask that you briefly introduce yourself to our viewers.
Okay. My name is Amanda Bevacqua. I am a proud St. Lucie West Centennial Eagle. I teach 9th grade language arts, and I love every second.
Tell me, where did you go to college?
I went to FAU.
FAU?
And I got...
Go ahead.
I got my degree in English, and I have a master's degree in teaching.
Master's degree in teaching. So, what's your favorite part about teaching every day?
Ooh, it's all about those kids.
Uh-huh.
It's all about the kids. That is my favorite part. Seeing them, having them come back to visit daily, knocking on my door. Is now okay, Miss Bevacqua? Is now okay? That they keep coming back. It's my favorite part.
So at this time of the year, what's going on in your class?
Ooh, what's going on in my class? We're writing. We are writing an informative essay right now. We are gearing the kids up to be incredible writers. We are going over informational standards. We are reading text for them to be able to analyze and answer any question that might come in their way.
Now, just in case someone does not know who the dynamic Andrea Potwell is, please introduce yourself. We call her Pop everybody as well.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. I'm Andrea Potwell. As stated, I'm the very proud principal of St. Lucie West Centennial High School. This is my 12th year at Centennial. I was assistant principal for 8 years, and this is my 4th year as principal. And I'm very excited about this class because this is a class that I started with. So it'll be the very first class that I could see all the way through.
So you're graduating this year?
Yes, I am. I'm super excited.
Ms. Potwell, you have the opportunity to visit Ms. Bevacqua's class every day. See that energy, see that excitement, see what's going on with she and her students. Tell me, how does it make you feel and what do you see and hear when you visit?
Ms. Bevacqua is definitely a model teacher. I really enjoy going into her classroom because she has such high energy. From the beginning, she really implements a lot of structure and procedure in her classroom. When you walk in there, you can definitely tell that it's a warm environment, that the students feel safe. You see lots of Kagan structures and strategies going on. As I said, being a model teacher, any teacher that we have struggling, we invite into Ms. Bevacqua's classroom.
Ms. Bevacqua, these students that we're teaching today, they were born using technology, knowing technology. But how do you use technology to help with instruction?
Absolutely. I think that technology drives engagement. I think that because it is such a large part of our society that kids want to use it, and anything that they want to use to entice them to want to be a part of their education, we have to capitalize on. So I use technology in many different ways. I use it for game purposes, for educational game purposes. I use it for writing strategies. We find corrections in paragraphs on a regular basis. We play, like I said, educational games. We use our electronic textbook all the time. We use many different videos that I can show them, historical videos that they can connect with the text to make that connection to say, ooh, I know what that is.
So you said how technology drives with engagement. We know that DQ5 in our framework for quality instruction is all about engagement. So how do you purposefully plan to engage these students in instruction?
I want to tell you that I always ask, Papa can tell you, to teach low-level children. I teach them because they remind me a lot of myself as a child. I was a low-performing student, and I didn't have teachers that helped me along the way, majority of it, because they saw me more as I wasn't performing to my capabilities, and I don't think that they could quite capitalize on engaging me to want to learn. So I feel that I use engagement in a way that I understand that not all kids are that gonna get it right away kid, gonna understand it or gonna wanna understand it. You have to make them want to understand it and wanna learn from you. So I would say that every one of my lessons that I plan is try it, do it, put something in it that will make them wanna know it.
So have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
No.
When did you discover?
I was in I guess you'd call corporate America kind of a position for 10 years as a manager of a major theme park. And I had employees that worked for minimum wage. And I was told that my biggest asset is that people want to work for you. They see that you're there for them and they want to work for you. And it made me realize that I could make way more of an impact. So I said, I want to go to school to be a teacher. And that's what happened. I went to school to be a teacher.
So as the teacher of the year, you're going to be called upon to talk to many different people, many different groups. What advice would you give to a new teacher?
not be afraid to try. Not be afraid to try, to see what kids need and to reach for what you think that they need. We don't always know what they need, but what you think they need is power. And try and not be afraid to ask.
What advice would you give to parents to help them ensure that their child would be a success?
I always try to tell parents to communicate with their children. I think that communication is something in our society that we've somewhat let go by the wayside. And I think that when you open the pathways to communication, that it opens up a large world to both parents and students. Ask about their day. What are they learning?
Mrs. Potwell, we know to be selected as the Teacher of the Year at St. Lucie West Centennial High School, that person does not just sit in their classroom, deal with the students that they teach, and go home. They're heavily involved in the total operation of the schools. What other kinds of activities would we find Ms. Bevacqua involved in?
Ms. Bevacqua is our freshman class sponsor. Ms. Bevacqua also participates in after-school mentoring or tutoring for our ELA students. She mentors teachers. Actually, she's in charge of our MLK parade, which is going to be on Monday. She's organized the float. Actually, anything that needs to be done on campus, Ms. Bevacqua volunteers.
So
she is definitely that all-around team player that you would want on your campus.
So would I be safe in saying that the better question is what isn't Ms. Bevacqua?
Absolutely.
I understand.
Absolutely.
I understand. So, Potwell, describe Ms. Bevacqua for me using 3 adjectives and tell me why you chose those 3.
She's humble, hardworking, and honest. She brings very unique character or very unique characteristics to teaching. You know, and when she explained her story talking about that she was that child that didn't get it, and she brings that perspective for us because we were not having issues on campus, but we were talking about grading on campus. And Ms. Bevacqua was very instrumental in talking about how grades impact kids who aren't high performers. And she just brings a different perspective, a different lens, a different way of thinking of things that, you know, we never would have thought of otherwise. And her voice is invaluable.
Humble, hardworking, and honest, characteristics of a dynamic teacher. So, Ms. Bevacqua, you came from corporate world into education. When did you first fall in love with teaching?
I first fell in love with teaching when I realized how amazing school culture was. I am all about school culture. I do pep rallies. I have murals painted in the Freshman Academy. I'm having one now to represent the idea of what it is to be an Eagle. I really feel like I fell in love with teaching when I realized the power that a school holds for a child. Not just a classroom, not just what you have within your 4 walls, but the power of being an Eagle, of being associated with a school that, yeah, you might not be the best in math or you might not be the best in English, but you could be a great person on the debate team or in the theater or anything that you can add to the school. The power of school culture is really where I fell in love with teaching.
What impact do you see you having on a student's ability to be college and or career ready?
Providing children with opportunity. I think when you provide children with opportunity, both inside and outside of the classroom, give them ways in which they can be successful, they can see success, then I think that they'll aspire to be something more and head to college and be ready because they want to do more.
You just mentioned in your answer the word success. So let's stay there for a minute. And you were talking about the opportunities for success for students. But when will you know that you are a success?
I really truly feel like I think that you can feel like you are a success or know you're a success when they keep coming back. When they keep coming back, when their parents keep coming back to you and asking for advice. When fellow teachers will come to you and say, can I bounce something off of you, or can you give me some advice on something? I think that that's a way to measure success, to know that people rely on you, that people ask you questions and they want to know you're their go-to person.
Ms. Potwell, tell me, what makes Ms. Bevacqua the perfect candidate for this honor?
She's the epitome of Centennial. She eats, sleeps, and breathes red, white, and blue. As I said, she's a team player. Her peers actually go to her for anything and everything. Her administrators rely on her for anything and everything. Her English department relies on her for everything. She's just an all-around outstanding person, and I wish I had 130 of her.
Dynamic English teacher, sponsor for freshman class, does pet rallies, tutoring, mentoring. What is it that fuels you?
Being a proud Eagle. I do feel that way, being proud of where I am, being proud of my school, knowing that we as a school have the power to take 611, I think as of today, freshmen, and bring them to success and bring them to a point where I will watch them walk across the stage and be that proud Mama Eagle that watches them go.
So to you, Ms. Bevacqua, what is the soul of education?
It's the people. The soul of education is the heart of a teacher. The soul of education is somebody, a teacher, teachers believing in students that they are capable and that they all have potential and seeing their potential.
Earlier you told us that you were in that corporate world and found your passion, found your love. In your heart of hearts, why are you a teacher?
I'm a teacher because I always wanted somebody to make the difference for me. I think as a child, I was probably what you would never want in your classroom. I was that child. Because I was not a high performer academically, I wanted to be noticed, and so I went to acting out behaviorally. And I always wanted to be noticed. I wanted somebody to find something in me as a young child that they could say, you can do, or you will be, or let me show you how. I'm a teacher because I know that regularly I search for that within children. I will give them opportunities, both inside and outside of the classroom, to have that shown, to be able to not just be, oh, you're good in math or oh, you're good in science, but you can do so many things to contribute to this school.
Ms. Spotwell, is there anything else that you want to tell us about Amanda Bevacqua that we don't already know or that you feel is important for us because she is your Teacher of the Year?
I really think that we've summed everything up. I can't say enough how much I appreciate having Amanda on campus, how lucky we are that she's chosen Centennial to call home. She's a very invaluable staff member, and she's wonderful.
So, Ms. Bevacqua, last thing for you. Finish this phrase for me. The world needs
more people that can see good in others.
More people that can see good in others. Just like a teacher who takes a hand, opens a mind, touches a heart, and shapes the future, which is what is evident that you're doing each and every day at St. Lucie West Centennial High School. Ms. Potwell, thank you for coming on the show. Ms. Bevacqua, thank you and congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie West Centennial High School, and best wishes to you for an awesome year.
Thank you.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Joining us now is the wonderful Teacher of the Year from St. Lucie Elementary School, Ms. Dorsey Reed. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
She's brought along with her the very dynamic Dr. Michelle Harrington, who's the wonderful principal there. Doc, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It is indeed a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to celebrate your selection, but to also introduce the dynamic teaching field from St. Lucie Public Schools to our viewers. There may be some people watching who don't know you, Ms. Reed, so would you please briefly introduce yourself to our viewers?
Again, my name is Dorsey Reed. I have been a teacher for 14 years. I taught my first 12 years at Windmill Point Elementary. In first grade, I absolutely love it. 2 years ago, I made a transition into an instructional coach position at St. Lucie Elementary, which I'm really enjoying.
So, Mrs. Reed, tell me, what's this idea of an instructional coach and what does your day entail?
Well, as an instructional coach, I'm responsible for collaborative planning, so I support teachers with that, making sure that they are planning to the rigor of the standards. I also am in classroom all the time, so I get the ability to work with students and with teachers, modeling lessons and just making sure that teachers are learning the tools that they need to be successful in the classroom.
So would you agree that you have the best of both worlds?
I definitely do agree. This is what I was born to do.
Awesome, awesome. So, as an instructional coach, who was a teacher, who still is a teacher, what's your favorite part about what you do or about teaching?
My favorite part is really seeing a child that something was unknown to them and they first experience that new knowledge of learning something new, that spark that goes off. Also, as an instructional coach from that point of view, is just teaching a teacher something new, a new tool to use, and just seeing them using that effectively in the classroom and knowing that's going to impact student performance.
Dr. Reed, Dr. Harrington, there may be someone that does not know you, so introduce yourself at this time.
Hi, yes, I'd be glad to. I'm Michelle Harrington. I'm the first-year principal at St. Lucie Elementary, and I had the pleasure and the privilege of working with Miss Dorsey Reed at Windmill Point when she was a first-grade teacher there, which is where I spent 5 years as an assistant principal. I'm a product of St. Lucie Public Schools, proud product of St. Lucie Public Schools, and I'm now the proud principal at St. Lucie Elementary.
So, you have the privilege to visit and watch Mrs. Reed every day working with teachers and our students. When you see her working, what is it that you see? What is it that you hear? How does it make you feel?
It's really exciting to watch Dorsey interact. She's actually our K-2 coach, so she supports literacy and math on our campus. So she works every day with about 20 teachers. And I actually had a meeting with a group of teachers yesterday, and all they could do was sing Mrs. Reed's praise. Because they recognize that the success that they have in the classroom really comes primarily from the support that she provides. Of the 20 teachers that she works with, more than half of them have been teaching less than 3 years. So they rely greatly on her support.
Ah, I understand. So brand new, basically, to the teaching profession.
Yes.
So they, just like a football coach, need a lot of support for those new persons that come on the team.
Absolutely.
Understand. So Mrs. Reed, we know that today we have to use technology as an instructional tool. How do you, in your role as coach, help teachers plan for the use of technology in their instruction?
Well, today we're definitely teaching students that they're born with technology in their hand. So when we're planning collaboratively, we have that in our minds. So I always make sure that the lessons that we're using have technology infused in it. Like we use YouTube to maybe launch a lesson. We use YouTube to launch a lesson. We also...
It's okay. He's talking about technology here and its use in the classroom.
Okay.
And we also know that we use engagement as a regular tool. With DQ5 from our Framework for Quality Instruction talks about the importance of engaging students in learning. How do we help teachers plan for engagement as well?
Engagement, I will say when I was in the classroom, I was all about engagement. Just always infusing it within the classroom, planning using Kagan structures, opportunities for the students to move, doing an activity instead of just using it and answering a question like on paper or pencil, we just vote with your feet, infusing those activities in the classroom. Also using academic games, love academic games just to get the children engaged and even deepen their understanding and learning in a fun way.
When we're planning for engagement, would you say that it's also a great way for the teacher to do a quick assessment of the knowledge of students?
Absolutely.
Great, great. So tell me this, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
I don't think I've always known that I wanted to become a teacher. I really realized and wanted to do it when in high school. I had an awesome teacher. Her name was Miss Lorraine Bowie. I'll never forget her. And she was the one who I'd say changed my life forever. She had high expectations. I didn't have a vision for my life that she saw for me. And she was determined that I was gonna do great things. I remember telling her when high school was about to end, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna work at Publix. And she was like, no, you're not. And I was like, okay. And she wasn't the one that you said no to. And she said to me, you're going to go to Florida Memorial College. On Friday, I need your letter of intent, why you want to be an educator, and tell your mom that you're going to be home late because I'm taking you down there to sign you up. And she signed me up, and I got enrolled, fell in love with teaching, and she changed my life forever because I wouldn't have been here without her.
Excellent, excellent. So, Dr. Harrington, to be the Teacher of the Year, we know that that person is heavily involved in the daily operation of our schools. What activities do you see Mrs. Reed involved in that help the school function?
That's a great question, Dr. Perry. One of the probably primary roles that she serves is the facilitator for collaborative planning. We know that our kindergarten, first, and second grade teachers, they need an opportunity to have support when they're planning. So they actually meet Monday through Friday during the day, and Miss Reed serves as their facilitator for collaborative planning. Also, she coordinates almost all of our parent nights. So each month we have a parent night, and most recently our parent night was at Publix in Taylor Creek Publix. So we wanted to take it out to the community. That was Mrs. Reed's idea. She decided that a parent night at St. Lucie Elementary was great, but it would be even better to take it to the community. She helps out in any capacity that we need when we're planning for upcoming crunch time. Although she supports K-2, she's going to be pulling students in grades 3, 4, and 5 to make sure that they're proficient in reading and math on the upcoming assessments. But anything that we need that involves students, parents, and families, Mrs. Reed's involved in.
That's excellent. That's excellent. We find that Teachers of the Year they're just there for any and everything that we need to make happen on our campuses. Mrs. Reed, as a Teacher of the Year, you really are our ambassador for everything that's right, everything that's good, all about education at St. Lucie Elementary School. In your role as Teacher of the Year, you will be called upon to speak to new teachers. What would your advice be to new teachers?
For new teachers, I would say be open. You're not going to get everything right. You're going to make mistakes, but the great thing is you're going to learn from those mistakes and you will be able to carry on. And also, just forge great relationship with your students, because once you form those great relationships with them, you can teach them anything.
In the same vein, we have to speak with parents a lot. We love having partnerships with our parents. We work collegially, collaboratively with our parents. What do you say to parents to help them ensure that their child is a success?
I would say to parents to be an active participant in your child's life. When they come home from school, question them about what they're learning in school. You may not understand everything that they're doing, but them talking to you about it is going to show that they're learning something at school, and you're also building your relationship with the student. Also, whatever opportunities the school have for parent night, go out and learn tools that you can use at home to help your child.
Speaking about those tools that parents can learn to help their child, as a coach, you get to help people try things that may be new or things that may be exciting. What may be new and or exciting that you're working with teachers and our students with at this time?
Well, I had the awesome opportunity in October to go to the NTCM conference in Orlando, and one of the workshops that I attended was on Math Talk, which is an opportunity in the classroom, building the classroom for the students to build their number sense. So that is what I'm bringing back to the classroom this year to the teachers, having them incorporate that in the math block to help the students really deepen their understanding and their number sense, because that is something, as I'm walking my classroom, that I see that the students are deficient in. So just building that time in every day for that.
You're talking about Math Talk, and you're talking about building number sense, and Dr. Harrington talked about our parent night at Publix in Taylor Creek.
Yes.
So tell me what that entailed.
Well, at Publix it was awesome. The students got to come in. We had differentiated worksheets for each grade level. They had to go around the store and maybe get a couple of items that was $3 or what shapes they could find in the supermarket. So it was really fun and engaging for the students. They really enjoyed it.
So your parent night was really like a math night as well?
Exactly. We can infuse it anywhere we can.
Dr. Harrington, I need you to please describe Mrs. Reed for me using 3 adjectives and tell me why those 3.
You know, I would say that the first thing is that Mrs. Reed is incredibly committed. She's committed to the success of the teachers that she supports, and she's most importantly committed to the success of the students at St. Lucie Elementary. I'd also say she's helpful. As a coach, she knows that any time during the day is never hers. Teachers are constantly at her door, sending her emails, asking her to come in and support them, and the teachers will tell you that at the drop of a hat, Mrs. Reed is there to provide any support that they need in the classroom. And then I'd also say she's optimistic. She recognizes the challenges that new teachers face. She recognizes the challenges that the students at St. Lucie Elementary face, and she recognizes optimistically that there's no holding back any of our students or our teachers.
That's awesome. 3 characteristics of a dynamic teacher. So here's a question for you, Ms. Reed. You told me that you thought you just work at Publix, but now you're planning math nights, parent nights at Publix. When did you first fall in love with teaching?
I think I first fall in love in teaching at the very end of my first year of teaching, first grade. I looked at the boys and girls and I saw that I had an impact on them. The kids that came in and were shy and were crying was able to speak so openly and fluently, and boys and girls were reading and they were doing math. So, and I helped them do that. So I was like, I could do this.
So Mrs. Reed, how do you see the job that you do, specifically now as coach, as helping students to be college and/or career ready?
I see we are preparing students for jobs and careers that are not even around yet. So it's my responsibility as a coach to teach the students how to learn and to be able to communicate, really teaching and focusing on the foundational skills so students can be able to read and comprehend and to incorporate collaboration so that they can collaborate and communicate effectively in college or beyond.
So Dr. Harrington, what makes Mrs. Reed the perfect candidate for this honor?
That she is committed to the success of students. That's, I mean, we show up at St. Lucie Elementary every day because of kids. And Mrs. Reed recognizes that her own experiences as a child growing up in Florida and some of the her own struggles that she faced as a student, that she wants to make sure that no other students face that. And she's committed to student success, and that's what makes her the greatest teacher, not only at St. Lucie Elementary, but in St. Lucie County.
So when you think about your decision, Mrs. Bowie's decision for you to be an educator, tell me, when you really get right down to it, why are you a teacher?
I am a teacher because I see the impact that a teacher can have in a child's life. How can someone that feel that they're not capable, that they don't have the potential for something, and that a teacher can change that mindset and create a lifelong learner. So that's why I'm a teacher, and I want to do that for every child that I come in contact with.
From teaching first grade to now being a coach, what do you think is your fuel to keep you going every day?
What fueled me, I would say, is really my personal life experience. Just growing up and not having all the opportunities, but having a teacher open my eyes to the possibilities, and just being around that I can do that for other kids, and that I could encourage them, that I could work with the teacher and teach them some tools that's going to have them not only impact the students in that classroom that year, but many students to come.
Finish this phrase for me. I believe
that great teachers are the foundation for success of a child.
Well, I want to leave you with these words when it says, a master can tell you what he expects of you. A teacher awakens your own expectations. And it's evident by what I'm hearing you say, that you're awakening those expectations of teachers and students to help them be the best that they can possibly be. Mrs. Reed, congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year. Doc, thank you for joining us, and it is a pleasure to introduce you to all the wonderful viewers that support St. Lucie Public Schools. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I wish I was in school. If only I had a math test today. I'll stay after class. I'll clean the chalkboard. I wish I was in school.
School ends, but free lunches for your kids don't have to. Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/summer meals for help.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Find fun activities to do, like boating and biking, or camping and hiking, plus much more. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Joining us this time is the Dynamic Teacher of the Year for Southern Oaks Middle School, Mr. Christopher Snorer. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
He's brought along with him Ms. Bridget Hargadine, who's the awesome principal there as well. Ms. Hargadine, welcome also.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Mr. Snorer, we love doing this show simply because it gives us an opportunity to introduce the fabulous teachers to our viewers here at WLX-TV and all around St. Lucie County. It also gives us an opportunity to celebrate you and your selection as the Teacher of the Year for your school. So we take pride in this, and we want to use this time to actually brag about you as well as celebrate the wonderful work that's going on. Just in case there's someone that does not know you that's viewing today, would you please introduce yourself to them?
Yes, my name is Chris Snorer. I've been teaching at Southern Oaks Middle School for the last 18 years, and I teach geometry.
Where did you go to school at, Mr. Snorer?
I went to Florida Atlantic University.
Okay. So, teaching basically math to our students, what's your favorite part of your day?
Well, my favorite part of the day, favorite part of the day would probably just be the overall engagement with the kids all day long. I mean, it's a really pleasant job. I mean, you know, you get to go in, you get to be around young, happy, smiling, healthy faces, and you know, what could be better than that? Spending every day with a bunch of the future generations, you know?
You talked about engagement a little bit. Well, you mentioned engagement, and we know that our framework for quality instruction has this idea about engagement that we all espouse to. So tell me, how do you purposefully plan for and use engagement in your class?
Well, to plan to get the kids engaged, I make sure that I stay engaged with them throughout the whole period. And, you know, it's really the number one thing. If I stay focused and I keep interaction with the kids throughout the entire period, it's very hard for them to not be engaged with me. And if I see I'm starting to lose them, maybe we'll throw in a fun little story, do something fun to try to pull them back in, and then we can get back to work again.
In addition to that, we know that the students that we're teaching were born using technology. They probably know more than all of us put together. But how do you purposefully use technology to help you instruct them?
Well, I mean, some of the ways, right now, I used to have a computer lab in my classroom, and we would constantly have the kids jump on the computer to do all sorts of assignments. The last couple of years, I moved out of the computer lab, so we don't have that anymore. But, you know, I'll have the kids pull out their phones to design questions. So sometimes, you know, say we're going to do a question with scientific notation, we might have the kids look up the mass of Jupiter and the mass of Saturn and the mass of Uranus, and then we can develop a question, and they can, instead of just solving problems, I try to make the kids actually develop the questions so they can really start to understand not only how to solve them, but how to make them, which really gets the kids fully involved.
Ms. Hargadine, introduce yourself to our viewers just in case they don't know who you are.
Well, I'm Bridget Hargadine, and I'm the principal here at Southern Oaks Middle School, and I am in my second year at Southern Oaks Middle School working with Mr. Snorer.
So when you visit his classroom, how does it make you feel? What do you see? What do you hear?
Okay, you're going to walk into a room with a teacher that is 100% passionately engaged, not only in the subject, but in his students. You're going to hear choral response. You're going to see students working side by side with their peers to answer problems. You're going to see students up at the board, answering problems, and you're going to see a teacher that has deliberately planned his questions to get at the deep conceptual framework that lies underneath the mathematics that he is teaching.
Wow, the deep conceptual framework of what you're teaching. That's deep, Mr. Snur. Tell me, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
Well, you know, I'd always known I wanted to be in service. I've always enjoyed. So, you know, police, fire, military, teaching, those were all very high on the plate. But when I really thought it through, teaching was the one thing that allowed me to always be with my family in times of emergency rather than having to run off. So I figured people in the neighborhood could always use somebody who was a useful type of person. When the emergency responders aren't there, somebody is in the neighborhood at all times that could be helpful.
So when did you first fall in love with teaching?
I think I first fell in love with teaching when, was it one of my first or second, or maybe, I don't remember which year it was, but a student of mine signed like a little yearbook at the end of the year, and he said, "Thank you, Mr. Snur, for making me feel proud of myself." And that really, it really struck a nerve. And, you know, and then every single time you go to the store and you run into students and they come up to tell you that they really liked you and that they were the best that you ever had, it's a very nice feeling, and it kind of, you know, happens multiple times, so.
In your class, with the years that you've had as an instructor, 18 or so, is there something new or something exciting that's going on right at this time with you and your students?
Well, there's tons of new things, and
cool.
You know, everything's exciting all the time, but you know, right now, this year's brand new is the Math Olympiad, which is really, really fun. I'm finding what's really cool about it is I didn't know anything about the Math Olympiad, but it turns out the questions are very similar to what we do on the end of course test for geometry. They require a lot of deep conceptual thinking, and it's not going to be directly just a little algorithm that's going to allow you to solve the problem. You're going to have to really think about the scenario that's in front of you, visualize it, and come up with a multi-step procedure to go ahead and figure things out. It's very interesting, and it's a great correlation to the class as well.
Ms. Hargadine, to be selected as the Teacher of the Year, that teacher is heavily involved in the other activities that actually make the school operate. What would we find Mr. Snur involved in?
Mr. Snur is a very busy teacher these days. Mr. Snur is the teacher coordinator that runs our Saturday Academy program for our students. So he's coordinating teachers across subject areas and students across subject areas to run his own little school on Saturdays. He's also involved in tutoring after school, tutoring students in algebra. And then, of course, he's picked up the Math Olympiad competition this year. And Chris is very helpful. He will do anything for the students in the school. And he, this year, has decided on his planning period to help out another class during that planning period. And so he's also instructing in a pre-algebra classroom because he wants to make sure that those kids do well.
Mr. Snur, as the Teacher of the Year, it's your voice that we often want speaking as the ambassador for the school. What advice would you offer to new teachers?
Well, you know, one of the teachers that I had in college told me, his name was Dr. Bynum. No, actually, it was Mr. Bynum. His wife was Dr. Bynum. And he told me that, he said, you know, most people become teachers because they want to help people. So you don't need to go and try to make yourself friendly with the kids right off the bat. He said that what you should do is be as hard as you possibly can in the beginning. He said you can always soften up later on, and this will set a precedent, it will set a tone, and it will keep the kids working for you. When a lot of teachers, when they're new, they start off trying to make sure the kids like them, and then they start to see behaviors that they don't like, which become very hard to stop later on. And then when they try to put their foot down, the kids don't respect them. So it's very helpful to start off very strong, stern, and then lighten up as the year goes on, and then you'll find that the kids enjoy you more and more, and they say he got better and better throughout the year rather than thinking you're getting worse. It's a very, very wonderful little technique that's very helpful.
As the Teacher of the Year, you also speak with parents often, and what advice would you give to parents to help them help their child be a success?
Well, one of the main things for mathematics, at least, would be to make sure that your kids are learning the vocabulary. Because a lot of times the vocabulary used in a mathematics class is not really used anywhere else. So it's very important that we take the time to really learn the vocabulary well. And, you know, a lot of times at middle school, the kids start to seem like adults. And, you know, you start thinking that they can handle everything on their own, but it's probably the time that they need their parents more than ever.
Ms. Hargadine, describe Mr. Snur using 3 adjectives and tell me why those 3.
Sure. Mr. Snur is passionate. He is technically precise. I realize that's 2 words. And also, I would think of the word integrity when I think of Chris. Mr. Snur is very passionate about making sure that he does the very best job that he can in the classroom, and that he is using every minute to the advantage of his students. And because of that, you can see he sets very high expectations for what is happening in class and how students are responding and what they're getting a chance to learn. He is very technically precise when he teaches math, and you heard him just speak about using academically precise vocabulary in the classroom. He makes sure that those students understand those words and they can use those words with ease in the classroom. And then lastly, I think it's Chris's own personal integrity that allows him to be such an amazing teacher. He's not going to allow one student in his room to fall behind. He's going to look for manners, methods, and motivations that will help all students in his room achieve.
Teaching geometry to middle school students and helping with pre-algebra and those kinds of things, how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
Well, for college and career readiness, these, you know, a lot of these tests that these kids are going to have to take, like the ACT and the SAT, they really strongly revolve. It's basically about the highest level they reach is the geometry and the algebra on these tests. And I try to make sure that they have a real, true, fundamental understanding of the concepts, which will allow them to solve any problem, anytime, not only problems that are set up in a certain scenario that they recognize. So I believe that, you know, the kids that have me end up doing very well. I don't know how to, I'm not exactly sure the proper words here.
It's okay. When will you know that you are a success?
Well, success is very much momentary. It's similar like a football team. You know, they win the game, you can celebrate for the night, you got to start ready for the next game. And it'll be the same thing with teaching. You know, we can be successful, we can measure ourselves by our end of course result scores and, you know, our VAM scores and things of this nature. But it's momentary. It only lasts for that one moment. You look at it, but then we got to start preparing for the next group of students in the next year, and it's a whole new set of challenges.
So after 18 years, what fuels you to go back each and every day and give your best to all of the students that you encounter?
Well, I hate to repeat what Ms. Hargadine said, but, you know, integrity. I mean, it's one of the most important things that we all need. And I just feel like if I'm going to do anything, I should do it to the best of my ability. And if I'm not exactly sure, I should work hard to figure out exactly what I need to do to get better. And there's always room for improvement. So I never think that I've already reached the pinnacle of success. At this point in time, I've reached a good level of success, but it can be better. And that's what fuels me, is that I know I can do a better job than I did before.
Ms. Hargadine, so what makes Mr. Snur the perfect candidate for this honor?
Chris's passion about teaching mathematics extends to making sure that his students have success later in life, not only in reasoning out math problems, but in reasoning out any problem that they have in life. And I think that's really important. He has influenced countless, numbers of students in our county to love math, to enjoy solving problems that are difficult, and to view learning as the tool to success.
You mentioned in our early conversation about knowing that you wanted to always do something of service to others. And we're actually glad that teaching won out. But in your heart of hearts, why are you a teacher?
Well, I've always been a teacher. I mean, even when I played football in high school, when kids weren't understanding what was going on, I would help the coaches explain what's going on. When I was a high school student, one of the kids isn't quite really figuring out what's going on in Spanish class. One of this guy, Telly Corsdale, he was one of the basketball players, he really struggled. So I would go sit with him. I say, look, it's not that bad. And I would try to explain it to him a little differently rather than the way the teacher did. And I use that same technique in the classroom today. I tell the kids, look, I want you guys to talk to each other now because maybe my words didn't quite reach you. Maybe one of your peers can word it so we can fully understand it. So even though I might not always be the one to teach them, I'm still offering support to help them reach that level of understanding. And I've always been this way. I don't think I've ever had a choice.
Finish this phrase for me. The world needs...
Well, the world definitely needs more integrity. We need people that can't be bought for a price. So people aren't just going to go run away. Like, teaching isn't always the greatest paying career, but it offers a lot of wonderful aspects to it. And, you know, it's not always... We need a lot of people who are going to be willing to teach and not just lose out because there's a better paying job somewhere else.
One more phrase for you as we wrap this up. Finish this one. I believe...
Well, I believe... That's a tricky question. I believe that, you know, every single student in the school has the ability to go ahead and learn more than they already know, regardless of where they came in, whether they're considered a very bright student or a very low student. We can all move forward. We can all be better than we were before. And this is a really important thing, which leads to work ethic. And this is something that I believe the whole world needs, is people that have a strong work ethic, people who are going to give their best effort in everything that they do, because it's important to them that they give their best. And we win with dignity, and we lose with integrity, and we just need more of these types of things.
Colleen Wilcox said, teaching is the greatest act of optimism, and it's evident from hearing you speak how optimistic you are about your students and about their paths to success. Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Southern Oaks Middle School. Thank you, Ms. Hargadine, for joining us, and we wish you both nothing but the best of success.
I'm Jenny Garth, and as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. This is unacceptable, and something Feeding America is working to solve. Through a nationwide network of food banks, Feeding America serves virtually every community in the United States, including yours. See how you can help your community. Visit feedingamerica.org. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
Joining us at this time from Mariposa Elementary School is the wonderful Miss Lana Watson, who is their Teacher of the Year. Miss Watson, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much.
Joining her also is the wonderful Mr. Craig Logue, who is the proud principal of Mariposa Elementary. Mr. Logue, welcome.
Thank you.
It is indeed a pleasure to have this opportunity to speak with both of you. I have to tell you, though, that we get excited simply because this gives us an opportunity, one, to introduce some of our dynamic teachers to our viewers, but to also celebrate you and brag about you and your selection and the wonderful work that you, as well as other teachers, are doing each and every day for the beautiful boys and girls here in St. Lucie County. So I'm starting off by saying congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Watson, just in case we have some viewers that may not know who you are, would you briefly introduce yourself for us?
Well, I'm Lana Watson. I've been teaching at Mariposa for 17 years. Right now, I teach the 3rd through 5th grade, varying exceptionalities, self-contained room.
Cool. So where did you go to school, Miss Watson?
I went to school at Mansfield State College in Pennsylvania. I graduated with a degree in foods and nutrition. And eventually, I took some courses at IRSC and became a teacher.
So what's your favorite part about teaching?
Oh, it's the kids. It's everything they teach me every day. They teach me so much more than I teach them.
I understand.
They're dynamic and they're exasperating and they always enjoy learning, even if they don't know they're learning.
So We often use technology as a strong instructional tool. In your 3rd through 5th grade self-contained classroom, how do you use technology to help instruction?
Well, we recently had our smart board hooked up, and we're still learning that, and the kids love it. But I have been using, one of the best things that's happened this year is we use the computers, of course. We use iReady, and but we do a comprehension book we started on Monday. It's a week's lessons with one passage. And this year, I don't even know how it started, but the passage was on Yellowstone National Park. So we read it, we did the Monday exercises, and then I said, come on. And so in my small group, this group of students went over to the computers, and I taught them how to Google information about something. And these 3 girls in this group sat for over an hour finding out things about Yellowstone National Park, and they were so excited. So now, every time I turn around, it's like, oh, well, just Google it, Miss Watson. Just get on your phone, Google it, find out for us. So it's been really interesting that these kids know a lot about tech. You know, they know a lot about technology, but they don't know necessarily how to use it the way that we would like them to use it. So this has been a fun way for them to get to know about technology and using the computer rather than to play a game.
Mr. Logue, introduce yourself, please, sir, just in case some viewers don't know who you are.
I am the proud principal at Mariposa. This is year 13 at Mariposa. It's hard to believe it's been that long. I've had 13 years with Miss Watson here. I have been a teacher, I've been an administrator, and I've been a principal. I've been a principal the last 25 years in two states, Maryland and Florida. And this is year 45 in my educational career.
So you get to visit Miss Watson's class every day. What do you see, what do you hear, and how does it make you feel once you visit?
I think every principal has a classroom that when things are tough or things have not gone so well, you sort of want to duck in for that. And Miss Watson's is one of those classes. It's one of our ESC classes. But what I love in there is the rapport that she has with her children and what she's been able to create, the learning community that she has with the students of varying exceptionalities is just awesome. And it is one where it's obvious they love Miss Watson, they love learning, and they love all the things that she helps them to be able to do.
Ms. Watson, you mentioned to me that you first started with food and nutrition. When did you decide that you wanted or needed to be a teacher?
Well, my daughter went to Mariposa. I didn't even know that school existed when she was assigned there. So I was in and out of Mariposa, very active. Nell Granitz was the principal. So when and I had been approved by the board to sub or to work in the school system. They needed a full-time or a position for a paraprofessional, temporary. So they asked me if I'd like to try it. So I did. My first day there, my first day as a temporary para, Miss Granite said, oh, you're going on a field trip today. So I had to take a 4th grade class to FP&O. But I did that until the end of the year, and then they offered me an ESE paraprofessional position the following year. So I started as a para, which was wonderful. It was a great way to learn about ESE. I'd always had a special spot in my heart for children with disabilities, but this was like magical to me. And Miss Granitz would often suggest, although she was never a suggester, if she suggested something, you needed to do it. That's the way she was, that I needed to apply to the state because I have BS, that I could teach. So I did, and I got a temporary certificate to teach, it was home economics 6 through 12. The position for the K through 2 teacher, ESE teacher, came open the next year. She gave me the job. I'd never taught. She saw something in me that I didn't know was there, and loved it, just loved it.
Just like Ms. Granite saw something in you and spoke to you about things and helped you get there. Your voice is the one that we often want to hear talking about education as the teacher of the year. What advice would you offer to new teachers?
Well, I think first and foremost, get to know the people at the school. It sounds a little silly, but we're a community. Mariposa, we're a community. We all work together, whether it's cafeteria, maintenance, support staff, paraprofessionals, it doesn't matter. And to relax, you know, to look for the best in the kids. To always look for the best in them, because it really can be. There are days that I'm just twitching by the time I get home. But yet there are those moments in those days that it's like, whoa, this was fabulous. And to look for those moments. And then use your teachers. Use the teachers at the school to help you with anything. Don't be afraid to ask.
And in addition to that, what advice do you give to parents to help them make sure that their child will be successful?
I tell them to talk to the teachers, to look in the backpacks, look in their book bags, you know, to keep in touch with your teachers. I text parents often during the day if something's going on. The parents, it's probably one of the hardest and the most fulfilling relationships that you can have with for me. I have, my parents and I are generally pretty close. I have students that I have had in K1-2 and now again in 3-4-5. So I've had it multiple years, so they know me. But if you're a new parent and it's a new teacher, introduce yourself, make yourself known, and keep in touch with them. And I think then you'll feel that you are doing the best you can for your child.
Mr. Logue, to be the teacher of the year, that person is heavily involved in the activities that help school run. What other activities will we find Ms. Watson helping with at Mariposa?
I don't think there's too many activities that she's not been involved with in our school over the years. She helps out with our PTO. She helps out with our activities that our PTO has. She's involved in all the things that I need advice on and help with. She's a great mentor to a lot of our other teachers and to a lot of other staff members. And she's also a person who, when she talks about her relationship with her parents, she's not even sharing completely just how wonderful her relationship is with her parents. They love her. They trust her with her children that have learning difficulties, and she makes them believe that things can, it can really be possible with their children, and she has them do that. So every facet of our school, Ms. Watson has some involvement with it, whether it's the Sunshine Committee, whether it's with helping out in the office. If we need somebody to do something, because we're shy people, she is always a volunteer. We'll frequently hear, we need some help out at parent drop-off, or usually parent pickup. Who comes out but Ms. Watson? She's always there. She opens her window from her classroom, which opens right out onto to the drop-off area. You need help? Yeah, we do. And she comes on out.
So, describe Ms. Watson for me, Mr. Logue, using 3 adjectives, and tell me why you chose those 3.
Well, that's easy. First would be determined. Determined is something that she has always been, whether she's been in a K2 environment or whether she's in her 3-5. The next would be quiet. That you might find that hard to believe, but you are. She is a person that is very soft-spoken in the classroom. You don't hear huge amounts of noise from there, but from her, it's from the kids and what they're doing, their activities, and their talking. And then I guess the last would be passionate. So she's the quiet, or determined, quiet, and passionate. Her room is one you would never mistake that for other people's rooms. When you go in, her kids are focused, and that's because she has developed a relationship with them to make them believe in themselves. And a lot of these kids don't have a lot of self-esteem. She has built that up, so you can't believe how well that they are doing and how well they feel about themselves. And that's her determination. She's determined they will be successful at our school. As far as the passion, I saw that from day one. Now, sometimes we talk about the Eagles, which is one of her football team, or her football team that she likes to follow. She's very passionate about that.
Yes.
Of course, Mr. Logue is a Redskins fan, so that always makes for some interesting things, some conversations. But her passion about her teaching, her passion about helping her kids. If there's a problem, she stays with that until either Mrs. Lamb, our assistant principal, or I have been able to help her. If she has to, she goes right on up to get what she needs for her children. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate having her at our school.
Ms. Watson.
Yes.
I heard Mr. Logue talk about your passion and about how determined you are. When did you first fall in love with teaching?
I think well, if we go back to when I was in college and wanted to change my major, my parents were determined we were going to college. And in the mid-'70s, there were no teaching jobs because I wanted to teach special ed. So they said, sure, you can change, but we're not paying for it. And I said, okay, well, fine, I'll stay in food. So that was like, it was there. Working as a paraprofessional. That's what really started that spark, and then just doing it.
So what fuels you today?
Knowing that I'm making a difference in these kids. Today we did a Martin Luther King, I read him a book, and afterwards we were talking about the speech, I have a dream. So I said, do you want to watch it? And he said, yeah, we want to watch it. So we watched the whole speech, 17 minutes, and here's my whole class so engaged in something that happened in 1963. And that, I was thinking about it today, that makes it all worthwhile, that when I can get them to learn something new.
Mr. Logue, what makes Ms. Watson the perfect candidate for this honor?
Worked with a lot of teachers over the years. I've had that privilege and honor. What distinguishes Ms. Watson is her ability to motivate her children to be able to go beyond what they thought they could do, or even their parents thought they could do. They have excelled because of her belief that they can, and she never gives up on them, never. And I think that she would be an incredible, it would be an incredible honor for her to be selected for that. And she is an incredible teacher.
Thank you.
So let's wrap it up, Mrs. Watson, by having you answer this one last question for me. When you look at everything that you've involved in, your work with students as a para, and now, what do you know for sure?
I know for sure that every student has the ability to be great.
William James said these words, "The teachers of this country, one may say, have the future in their hands." And we're hearing you talk about students being great, so we know that you understand exactly what he was talking about. Mr. Logue, thank you for coming. Ms. Watson, thank you for joining us as well, and congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Mariposa Elementary, and best wishes to all of you.
Thank you.